Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ian Mann, and I'm joined on the panel today with Mr. Ron Maris and Mr. Clay Purvis. The Assessment Department personnel is Matthew Harlan, and the administrative personnel is Twinkle Sharma. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all of the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private to make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1, 3, and 5 through 8 inclusive on our docket today. Ms. Sharma, will you please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony?
For sure. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Matthew Harlan.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to provide at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Rocky Newfold.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to provide at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Turn to number 1 on the docket then, Mr. Harlan. The street address is 590 Moray. If you can please introduce the property and provide your evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 24-4212. The roll number is 0708036210. As stated, the address is 590 Moray Street, and the owner is MacDon Industries Limited. The 2025 roll year, based on a reference date of April 1st, 2023, is assessed value of $4,227,000. If you look at below page 1 of my brief, we'll see the property description information. We'll see this is a one-story building. The actual year builds range from 1980 to 1992. Which is the same as the effective year builds. We have an overall effective year built of 1987. The wall heights range from 15 to 37 feet. Construction class is steel frame, metal frame and walls. It is zoned for M2 manufacturing general. We have a land area of 196,186 square feet with a plan area of 60,477 square feet. This gives us a land to plan area of 3.24. And we have a total leasable area of $60,477. I'm sorry, 60,477 square feet. We turn to page 2 of my brief. We'll just see the request for information has been received. There have been no recent sales on the property, and we have no leases in place. Okay, so we turn to page 3 of my brief. We'll see the subject location. So as indicated, this is just off of Moray Street, just north of Moray Park, you can see here. So this would be in the Moray Park industrial area of the city. So this is just kind of an overview where it's located. Turn to page 4. This is just a further photo, just an aerial view photo, just to show where the property is situated with the little red dot there. We turn to page 5 of my brief. You'll see the parcel outline of the property. So we can see where it's situated on Moray, and then it backs onto Cree Crescent. So we turn to page 6. We'll just see another closed-up, zoomed-in photo of the subject, just again see the parcel outline and the property in its entirety. And you can see the different wall heights as I indicated. We turn to page 7. This is just the building facing Moray Street. So you can see again the building itself in the front. Page 8 of my brief, this is just a photo from the rear of the subject, so you can just see where you have the access off of Creek Crescent from the back. Page 9, it's just some further photos from the subject from just the west and east side of the building. And then pages 10, 11, and just some further photos, just more closer up images of the subject. We turn to page 12, this is just another photo from the rear, just more zoomed in, and then at the bottom of page 12, this is a street view photo from the subject facing the property from Moray Street. This is just another photo on page 13 from the front of the building. And bottom of page 13 is just a rear photo, a street view photo from the one side of the one entrance point from the back, from the rear. And here's the secondary entrance from the rear as well. So those are all some of the photos just to show the property in its entirety. Okay, now if we turn to page 15 of my brief, you can see the income workup. So as I indicated, we have a total leasable area of 60,477 square feet. We're applying a model rent of $5.25 a square foot, which gives us a potential rent of $317,504. We are allowing a 4.5% for vacancy, which then gives us an effective gross income of $303,216. We're allowing 3% for non-workable expenses, as well as $4 a square foot a shortfall, which then gives us a net operating income of $283,234. And then lastly, we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 6.7%, which then gives us the estimated value of $4,227,000. We turn to page 16 of my brief. These are my rent comparables. So here's some rent comparables, some of the locations. So we have Sherwin Road, Seal Avenue, Hutchings, Bannister Road, Owens Creek, Sherwin, and Oak Point Highway. So these are some properties, similar types of properties in different types, similar types of industrial areas. So if we look at the lease start dates, they range from January 2018 to February 2022. Lease terms range from 2 to 10 years. Leasable areas range from 47,000 to 61,400 square feet. Wall heights range from 18 feet to 30 feet. We have a effective year bills ranging from 1969 to 1997. And the rents in place range from $5.67 a square foot to $8.27 a square foot. So again, as our model rent was $5.25, I believe would bracket the comparables I've shown here. We turn to page 17, my brief. This is just some cap rate information. So under the industrial section, so the cap rate of 6.70 falls within the 20th to 8th percentile for cap rates the city has applied for properties, or industrial properties. And looking at some of the outside sources, it would also, I believe, be supported by the outside sources as well. We turn to page 18, my brief. This is just some municipal assessment accuracy information. Turn to page 19, my brief. This is the income expense mailer. This is a fully owner-occupied property, so there is no actual rent in place, but they are compliant just to show that. So this is on page 19 and page 20, and they've also indicated owner-occupied. We turn to page 21 of my brief. This is just a site plan I was able to find on file, just to show, again, the addition. There was an initial building when it was first built, and then there's an expansion back when it was initially built, or the expansion after, henceforth by the effective dates, or effective year built range. So this is just to show the site plan. And then page 22 of my brief is just a older floor plan we had on file, just to show the building. So you can see warehouse, there is some office space as well. So again, this is just a bit of an older floor plan we have in file. So, and if we turn to page 23 of my brief, these are just the building sections. So just to show the two building sections and how we've come up with the total area, leasable area of the building. So we have the one building was built in 1980, then we get one in 1992. And you can see the different wall heights and the different ages of the buildings. And I believe that is concluding my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arlen. Mr. Neufeld, questions?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I was verifying some information, so I don't have to ask some questions here. Speed it up.
No problem.
Hey, the valuation, page 15. Was this all model generated?
Correct. This is model derived. Yes.
Yeah, and so you're dealing with the plan area only 60,477. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, and the land to plan area. Your overhead view of it. That would be, I think is the best one on page 5, or is there oh no, sorry, there we go. Better picture. Top page 6. There is no access on Moray, correct?
Yeah, not for like trucks. It would be
No truck access,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So all the truck access is from Cree.
correct.
And looking at the picture on the prior page, there's a large lot to the south of it, which is a part of this facility. There's no border between them, is there?
That is owned also by MacDon. So yes, yeah, that is correct.
Okay, so the product that gets assembled in the subject property is then stored on the lot next door. Is or if you don't know, that's fine. I was just wondering if you knew that how closely they were associated.
Yeah, no, I know. I was aware of that. That's
Okay.
just, yeah.
And they also own the building immediately to the north,
Yes, that is correct. It's 660, correct. Yeah.
and also the large building across the street,
Yeah, no, I'm definitely
and and also 11 Salto, which is on our docket, which is on your showing on your page 4, um, right above the words of Salto Crescent,
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
and also 2555 Saskatchewan, their shipping and parts facility, which is just a bit further north.
Yeah, I'm aware of that one too. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay. I just now my question in identifying all these is there's a common ownership, and it's one economic unit. Like you're aware that the buildings are not all they're not standalone properties. Each of them have a specialization.
Yeah, for the different, or what they're doing. Yes, for the function of the business. Yeah, I understand that you have a different use, I guess, if you will. Yeah.
Has there ever been thought given to trying to put the assessments under one role?
Well, I mean, I think it'd be a little challenging because of the fact that I mean, all they're in the same area, but they're not like exactly adjacent to each other. Like, for example, maybe the one just adjacent to it with the storage, maybe that could be possibly something we can do, or even the one above it. But some of the other ones that are further away, I think that would be a little challenging to combine them all as one.
I mean, we've seen it dozens of times where you have a separate parking lot across a back lane and it's merged with the role that's associated with it. And the reason I'm getting this is that if they're not separately marketable because they're part of a larger unit, shouldn't the proper way of valuation would look at them as in their entirety?
Okay, sorry.
I just wanted to comment on it. That's all.
I mean, I guess how I would see it. I mean, I'm sure you have a different perspective, obviously, which I completely understand. So, the way I understand that they are being used all by MacDon. So, I mean, but the way they are, I don't see that. I don't see why they couldn't be marketable. Like they couldn't. I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't sell this building if they decided to. I know they wouldn't, but I don't see any reason why they couldn't. Like, what would?
Okay, well, let's get into that. You produced some sketches here on. Beginning on page 21, so there are sections in the building. Have you ever been in the building?
I have not been in this building.
Oh, okay. And then the another sketch on page 22, and you call it a warehouse. Of course, it's not a warehouse, is it? It's an assembly line.
Well, I said I haven't been in, so I can't speak to the exact.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. And where is the theater on this sketch?
I am aware of the fact that there's a theater in there, but I don't know where the theater is exactly.
Right. And there's a classroom in the site?
Yes, there's a classroom for training, I believe. Yes. So.
And okay. And you're I don't know if you're aware of it, but some of the space is obsolete, not in use. Are you aware of that?
In terms of, I don't know which. No, I don't have that information. No.
Okay, how many implement manufacturers are there in Canada? And I'm not putting you on the spot.
I honestly don't have that answer.
They're probably not a lot, are there?
I can imagine not a significant amount now.
So a purpose-built and design building that's been altered over time to meet a certain need, wouldn't that have a limited appeal in the market?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's a 100% special use per se, but yes, I understand they've maybe fixed that, or they designed it for their needs, I guess. Yes. So.
And getting back to, I'm not going to beat all this to death here. Your valuation model, page 15, calls this a flex warehouse.
Correct.
Wouldn't a better indication be manufacturing?
I mean, it does. I know there is some office space, so I mean, maybe that would be part of the reason. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it possibly could be classified as manufacturing as well. Yes. So.
And does your model, um, um, sorry, I'm just not, don't want to lead anymore. I think I'm just about done here. The cap rate on your workup, which would be page 17, the summary pages. Is there a specific? It doesn't matter what category it is in, right? They're all the same for the city of Winnipeg.
Correct. We don't have it differentiated. No.
Yeah. Would an industrial building that's being used for manufacturing then in the model be treated the same as a warehouse?
You know what? I think the cap rate's more reflecting, the condition, the age, location of the building. But you're right. There could be some variations. So.
Were you? Does your model deal with environmental considerations?
I don't have that information. So.
Okay. Were you aware that there's a registration file number 20313? Sorry, 20686 on the site?
I don't have any information to speak to that. So.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Barrett, have you any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Harling, this is all model driven.
Correct. Yes.
So does the department have any checks and balances in regards to when they do assessments in regard from one year to the other? Do they keep track of the average increase for warehouses or apartment buildings or anything like that?
I think the problem is I think there's a lot of factors that would go into that. So you're right, there's so many factors that would go into it. Like for example, location, age of the building, size, location. So yeah, there's going to be a number of factors that would adjust the. I mean, there's not a specific set number that we would apply per se to all buildings. It really depends on the specific.
No, but you would generalize, wouldn't you? Like as a rule of thumb in regards to what the average might be. Like it'd be 10% or 15% but it varies in regards to area. But I'm sure there's some data around, or like I say, checks and balances in regards to what the average would be.
Well, I don't have that information, so at this time. So okay. So.
But it would it exist?
There may be something out there. Yes, that I don't have that information. I can't really speak to it.
All right. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Purvis, any questions?
My questions have been asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay, my question is with respect to the truck access, Mr. Harling. Creek Crescent is, I'm just going back to the aerial photo on page 4 and page 3. Okay. Am I correct in asking or noting that Creek Crescent joins with Murray Park Road to the west of this property?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, if you look at Murray Park Road, you can see the road where eventually it would. Yeah, you could turn into off of Creek Crescent. Yeah, so they were. Yeah, that would be. I believe that would be a correct statement. So.
Okay, and to the west of this picture on page 4 and page 3, it would join with Sturgeon Road to the west?
Sturgeon Road. Yes, I believe that would be correct, yes.
Okay. Then I don't have anything further. Mr. Neufeld, your evidence, please.
Okay, sorry, we had technical difficulties yesterday, so I'm not sure if my microphone and camera are working nicely. MacDon Industries, as you heard, owns multiple buildings in this area. Their entire campus is probably around, I think, 1.2 million square feet. Each of the, and includes actually 3 other properties not discussed. One is a tractor testing, and the other is a parts retailing site, and the other is an offsite powder coating. But each of these is not self-contained; they're part of the whole. So, in terms of the statement about whether they can be marketed separately, well, anything can be sold separately. It just costs money to do it. So you would have to take this site and do some work on it, and that's money means it's worth less. This particular building is an assembly building where they take parts that are made in their other plants, and then they put them together here. So you'll see sometimes they'll import a chassis from a different manufacturer and put their implement on top of it, and then they get them ready for shipment here in the yard to the south, which is a separate role. Excuse me. The other things in this building is there's a theater showroom with a stage. Totally obsolete space for anybody else, but for them, this is where they would bring their dealers in to demonstrate and unveil the new tractor. They don't do tractors; they do a lot of self-propelled implements and some towed implements like swathers. But this is where they would wheel these out, and this is where they have their classroom for training of their sales forces as well as their technicians, and then the assemblage. So when you can see in our evaluation, we have what we call unheated space of 5,000 feet, and that's the bridge in the 2 buildings. The assessor's pictures will show this the best on page his page 22, where they line up. There's a garage area where the implements can be wheeled out in the center, and that's unheated. So it's I don't know, you call it obsolete space, unheated space. It's not the same as the rest of the space, and it is designed for them. That's why we split it up the way we did. In terms of the rent rate that we put on here, we consider this as part of the whole. You cannot achieve a higher rent than this unless some capital was spent on it to convert it. So as a result, that's how it should be. Now, we think now across the street, the MacDon 400,000 square foot building, the assessment on the rent is $3.40 a square foot. And so these assessments per square just go up and down, and their parts shipping place in Saskatchewan is at $8 a square foot. That's not appropriate for this, because they should be as one product, one entity, one economic entity, and they will not be sold separately. As a matter of fact, they actually were I don't know if you call the word sold, but they were transferred to a holding company in about a decade ago, and based out of Oshawa, and the entire portfolio was transferred at that time. Just point out, I know sometimes you might think that I'm just ramble here and making stuff up, but I'm for MacDon and most of my clients, as an appraiser, I'm also do a lot of in-house work for them on different matters, and I can't tell you what that is because it's confidential. But my knowledge of it comes from being intimately part of their operation. So we think that the number we put here is the best way of approximating a part of a whole. That's the best way to put it. The other factors on here, as far as vacancy, I believe that's from the Johnson report, and non-recoverables, I'll only make the statement once today. Non-recoverables are real. They're part of any valuation. If you disregard the non-recoverable expense, then you must take every lease you look at and take out the revenue that pays back that non-recoverable, if it's a tenant inducement, to the landlord, because in essence, they're not really non-recoverables. They're expenses that have been repaid in the rent. There has to be a balance in life, and there always is, and financially. So you have leases that are full of tenant improvements, and then you have non-recoverables, and that's the balancing act on it. The shortfall is higher because the taxes are higher, and taxes are a major component of the shortfall. The city rate is one rate for every industrial. That's not correct. And the cap rate reflects many things. First of all, it is not a warehouse. Now, there's a very simple way that you can look at the difference in between a manufacturer and a warehouse, and that is, if you have a manufacturing facility, it has a shorter life because the building gets beat up, and the building is there to make stuff, not store stuff, and they're generally all impacted by environmental registrations, as this one is. You see, we made a note of it on the top of page 2. We failed to give you the registration number, which is 20686. And you're going to give me a bit of time in this first run, so be quicker on the other ones. I know one of the board members attended a hearing where the assessor disagreed or said I was wrong and he was right. Well, I was right. We've been through this yesterday with upper management on the concept of how Manitoba registers contaminated sites. What I presented was on their if you want to do a search on a site, there's a category called not categorized. It doesn't mean that they're not impacted. It just means that Manitoba Environment has not yet put them into a format. They have a registration, and there's actually a registration on the property next door for a hydro substation. Obviously, it's an old one, and I'm assuming it has something to do with PCBs. So that's one issue here on the cap rate we took into account, and I think the truck access is quite apparent. How you have to come down Cree, it's a narrow street, and not optimum semi-trailer access. So this building, even if it were repurposed as a warehouse for road transport, would be inferior. It's not conducive to the best to dealing with semi-trailers. Rule of thumb is 125-foot turning circles are required, and that means it's a better site. This one does not. This is a back-end site, and utilizing Cree for its access. But because it discharges onto their own parking lot, they can make it work. So the other option is to subtract the value of that lot from this assessment, which we haven't done. We're just taking that into account in the cap rate. The other factors with it, is I've already gone through, is it's a purpose that was built for a specific user, which is not marketable, lots of obsolete space, and capital is required to convert it to a different usage on it. So all these, if an investor is looking at it and wants a rate of return on it, they would have to incur additional capital expenses, which come out of the cap rate. You pay less for it because you got to spend some money in it to achieve a rent. So on a sale on market value, which the definition of market value, willing seller, willing buyer, you're putting it on the market. Current situation, it'll cap around 8%, and you'll have to put a few million into it, and then you get a rent, and maybe it'll cap for less after that. But we're not assessing after, we're assessing it as of today. I'm trying to present this in simple form, but there's a great deal of appropriate theory behind what I've said. I think that's all I wanted to point out on this one. And I know another board member who's heard the MacDon for 20 years, so he's heard it all before. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Harlan, questions?
Yes, maybe a few. So just based on looking at your brief here, the breakdown, I think you kind of mentioned it. So this 5,000 square feet, you've broken it down. Is that the theater space you're talking about, this unheated space, or where is this space again?
No, it's a breezeway, we'll call it. And I know you didn't get a picture of it in it. I actually have one, and when I appraised this property for other purposes, I had it, and the person who did this report failed to put it in. But it's located between the sections, so where they would wheel a swath or something from the assembly and move it to the outside onto the parking area. It's an open, unheated area. And, you know, because it's part of the operation, I personally, I wouldn't have written it this way. I just would have gone with the whole space and called it 450 without trying to do any sort of fancy split on it. And we also have a different square footage. And I got mine from MacDon's own records. It's a small disagreement with the city. We did have a higher space area. You know, out of here, I can send you a picture of it when we get out of hearing, just so you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, thank you. So, and I guess, like I said, I see how you use your rents. So, like you said, I know your position is not looking at it as one economic unit, obviously. So, is that how you kind of come up with your rent? More looking at it as just looking at it as multiple, like all these additional buildings. That's how you kind of come up with the rent, I guess, more or less, or
Yeah, it's a devaluation of market to a single use operator, and again, thinking about the interest to a user. So if a user wants to an alternate use, as you suggest, a warehouse, they're not going to rent it for $6 a foot or $7 a foot. They're going to rent it a lot cheaper, and someone's going to have to pay to put in the changes, whether it be the landlord who then amortizes into the rent, or the tenant who just gets a cheaper rent because he's doing the work himself. And I mean, I think overall we're not disagreeing with for a warehouse on your model. I think it's a fine number, but that's for a warehouse, and this is based both on the concept of alternate use and the fact that it's a manufacturing facility. And there are very few rented manufacturing facilities because investors don't want to own properties that get beat up that badly and they have to spend capital on.
And I just one last quick question was, I know you kind of touched on this a bit. So I know you've indicated some issues with the site being, I guess, impacted. So I'm not trying to dispute anything because, like, I mean, I looked on the Canada website and I can't find it. But I mean, you know, I know you mentioned a registration number, but so is it like contaminated, impacted, and like, you know what it is, or do you have any? Just something so I can have some, you know.
Yeah. The files aren't available like they used to be. You used to be able to go down to 123 Main and look at them. Now you got to make an appointment, file a form that takes about 90 days to get. So I don't know. It's just it's got a registration number, and that means that there is something, and it really doesn't matter from a valuation point of view what it is. It just means it's a problem.
Okay. All right, you know what, then I think those other questions leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arling. Mr. Purvis, have you any questions?
I do. Just to clarify, the overhead satellite image that you have on page 1 of your brief, and then the photo from page 2, those are different buildings. I'm assuming they're just a.
Yeah, that's not even the building though.
Yeah, like those are.
Yeah, no, that's
even the overhead. It shows. It's a very different view of the property from the overhead.
No, this is I don't even know what this is. I think it's on Salto.
Yeah, it says Univar Solutions in the picture on page 2. I don't know if and that building looks kind of like the
Oh, okay. No, that's 167 Lawson.
Okay,
Um,
I just wanted to make sure that because it did look very different from what the city's
yeah,
photos
yeah,
were. So
that's,
I wanted to clarify that. Also, with regard to the environmental issue, do you have anything in your brief? Like, is there, like, I know you've given us the verbal on the,
well, we made a note of it on page 2, that there is,
that hazmat rezoning thing and the property rights.
well, yeah, that there's a property right issue related to the environmental. No, honestly, I'll tell you, I only verified. How did this happen? We had a big argument at a previous hearing, and I ended up speaking with a senior person at the city yesterday, and we, we're both aware of how the registry works, and so I just went back and verified and got the number on this. So it's a verbal last minute insertion here. That, however, we've made the assessors aware of it in the past. It's not a secret.
okay.
But you're right, my fault, our fault. We made a couple of errors here.
Yeah. And then the other thing I just wanted to, no, you know what? I had a question about the cap rate, but it's answered within your brief, so I'm good. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rivers. Mr. Merritt, questions?
I just have one, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Newfield, there's this discrepancy in regards to the square footage, but it's really minor, I guess.
Right. I got the measurements from, well, our office got the measurements from an appraisal I did personally in 2012. And at the time, I think we had a building location certificate it was based on. So provided by the client. So I think the difference might be maybe vestibules, overhangs, that sort of thing. I know the city's number on the plan area is right. I've been trying to figure it out myself. But our source was good. Yeah, like we had, I'll tell you what we had is we had the two sections, one at 27,405 built in 1980 and the second at 33,864 built in 1992, adding up to 61,269. Don't know.
All right.
Different sources.
I thank you, Mr. Newfield. No other further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newfeld. I'm just looking for, if you can, some clarification with respect to the registration, the indication of the contamination. You had indicated, or you'd mentioned in your oral evidence about the property immediately, was it immediately south, immediately adjacent to this, had a hydro or indication that it was a hydro station and some contamination from that. You opined that it could be PCBs. Is that the immediately adjacent property that shows to the south of the subject property in the assessor's photos?
Well, I'm not entirely sure because I'm looking at it right now and it's addressed 690 Moray, but its location is on Moray. I'm just trying to nail this down here.
Yeah, 690 more should be further north.
Oh, okay. No, I'll tell you, I found out where it is. It's I think we can probably disregard my comments on it. Assessor's page, it's coming back to me. Assessor's page 5. Across the subject on Maury, the purple box. That's where it is. That's not owned by MacDon. That's a hydro decommissioned transformer.
Okay. And is that the property that is subject to the registration, or is
No,
that
no, no, no,
restricted
that
to
was,
property?
that was the second registration I discovered.
Oh, okay, so that's not relevant to this particular.
No, there is a registration, 20686, and then I noted the second one, which is on across the street on their lands, and yeah, it's in the registry as that. That's all the information I have, though.
What do you have? Do you know when that was registered? With respect to subject property.
Actually, I might be able to find. I have a printed database from 2007, and it did take me a bit of time about a minute to find it. There might be a bit more detail.
Well, that's fine if it's not readily available. And my last question with respect to that is, has MacDon, and I'll start again. The registration affects more than just this property at 590 Moray. I think that's in one of your briefs.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has MacDon done any independent testing or any environmental testing with respect to the registration or the hazardous materials?
I don't think they ever have, because all of their dealings have been private. There's multiple registrations on MacDon. There's 2055 at 680 Moray, their Roseberry site, which isn't of any much further away, and then this one.
Okay.
I mean, anytime you're dealing with manufacturing, you're prone to get it.
And do you know if it would have been registered, or was that registration in effect prior to them constructing the new area? That was that 1992, I think that was. Or do you know?
The only date I have is November 1st, 2007, that they were in effect.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Harling, any summary?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Neufeld?
I think it's just repetition, so thank you.
Okay, thank you then. Having heard the evidence, we will conclude that matter and move on to the next matter. That's number 3 on the docket, which I believe is the street address of 50 Holman's Street. Mr. Harling, can you take us through that property, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the file number is 24-3952. The roll number is 13096113700. The address is 50 Omens Creek Boulevard, and the owner is numbered company 292-59424 Manitoba Limited. The 2025 roll year, based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023, has an assessed value of $6,408,000. If you look below on page 1 of my brief, you'll see the prop description information. So we have, this is a 1 to 2 story building. We have the actual year builds range from 1979 to 2024, which is the same as the effective year builds. We have and we're using an overall effective year build of 1990. Wall heights range from 16 to 26 feet. Construction class is masonry bearing walls. We have a zoning for M2 manufacturing general. We have land area of 588,416 square feet with a plan area of 51,084. This gives us a land to plan area of 11.52. And then we have a total leasable area of 53,388. Okay, so we turn to page 2 of my brief. We'll see the request for information and received, and see the most recent, or the last time this property sold was in April 25th, 2014, and we have no releases in place on file. Okay, so if we turn to page 3 of my brief, you'll see the subject location. So this is just located on, again, like I said, Omens Creek. Omens Creek, it's in the Omens Creek industrial area, if you will, just off of Logan Avenue. So you can see in the map here, just east of it would be Logan, and then that would also be Route 90. So you can say, and you can kind of just see where it's located, situated there. So I'll turn to page 4 of my brief. This is just an aerial view, just to get a better idea of, again, where it's situated on Owens Creek Boulevard. And then, as I indicated, just Logan Avenue is just adjacent there. And then Brookside Boulevard would be to the west. If you turn to page 5 of my brief, this is just a parcel view of the subject properties. You can see here in highlighted in red. So this is the subject. I'm just zoomed out. If we turn to page 6 of my brief, this is just a closer image of the subject. So you can see there's the 3 buildings on the site, and then there's just the additional space land in the back. Now, if we turn to page 7 of my brief, this is just a photo from the subject facing Owens Creek Boulevard. So you can see the 3 buildings in the pictures here. Page 8, this is just a further photo of the subject, just zoomed in, as you can see here. Page 9 of my brief, just a further photo from the rear of the subject, or from the east, and then one from the rear at the bottom of page 9. And this is just another photo from the other side of the building on page 10. If we turn to page 11 of my brief, these are just some for the 2 buildings in the rear of the subject. You'll see there's the larger one at the top and then the smaller one at the bottom. And then just page 12 is just another photo of the subject, just more zoomed in. If we turn to page 13 of my brief, you'll see some street view photos. So this is from, again, on Owens Creek Boulevard. And then you can see you keep going west, you'll see another photo of the subject, the main building. And then if you go to page 14 of my brief, you'll just see some further photos further on the other end of the building at the top and then at the bottom here. So this just gives you an entirety of the building. Okay, so if we turn to page 15 of my brief, this is my income workup. First thing I just wanted to note, you may have noticed there's actually a couple of fortunately some issues or error. I guess it's just a kind of an error on this workup, how it was broken down. So if you look, you'll see actually the total leasable area says 53,388 square feet, and then below that it says 46,488. So that's incorrect. It should be actually 53,888. It was just a typo. And also, if you look at the potential rent, you'll see it says 364,526. So that's unfortunately another typo. It should actually be 355,388. There's just some when it was creating it, there was just some typos, unfortunately. So I'll just go through those just to give you the proper numbers, just so everything matches up. So so you can see here we have the 4 premises. So the first area would be the main building. This is you can see the model rate we've applied, and then the potential rent at 154,268. The building below it, 8,000 square feet. This is one of the buildings in the rear of the property, the one I showed in the picture of the smaller building in the back. So you can see the potential rent is 52,560. The one at 16,000 square feet is the other building that's just adjacent to it, the larger one. And you can see the potential rent is 105,120. And then this 6,900 square feet shows a rent of 762. It actually should be closer. It should actually be around $6.29 a square foot, which would then give a potential rent of 43,440. So that's the only one that's incorrect. So if you add the additional values that I've already shown in the potential rent plus 43,440, that would give you 355,388. So I apologize for the confusion, just kind of the way it's been the error there. But yeah, so the leasable area we have on file is 53,388 square feet. And the potential rent should be 355,388. So, and this would give us a total rent for like a blended rent of $6.66 a square foot overall. So I just wanted to give the board some context into why there's the discrepancy or the issue there. So, one thing I'll just kind of note too is, like, as I'll go through, because this property has had a couple of additions that have been added in the past few years. So just to kind of make a note, that's 1,600 square feet. That actually is one of the additions that was added to the existing building, the main building. So it should have been included in the 22,488. It's just, unfortunately, when it was added, it wasn't added, I guess, into that space when it should have been. So we're just accounting for it, so it's there. But the leasable area is correct at 53,388. So, and I'll go through like some of those additions just to give some more context, so hopefully it makes more sense. But so if we just go to the income valuation under here, so as I indicated, 53,380 square feet is the leasable area. We have a potential rent of $355,388. We're allowing 3.5% of vacancy, which then gives us an effective gross income of $342,949. We have giving 3% for non-rental expenses, as well as $4 a square foot for shortfall, which then gives us net operating income of $326,153. And lastly, we're applying a capitalization rate of 5.40%. This gives us a capitalized value of $6,039,870, rounded to $6,040,000. And then lastly, we are also adding additional land value of $368,000. When included with the capitalized value, gives us a total estimated value of $6,408,000. Okay, so we turn to page 16 in my brief and 17. So I've shown some comparables here. So the first page would be some smaller comparables, and then page 17 would be some larger comparables. So I'm not going to go through them all. I just try to make things a bit flow a bit quicker. So you can just see the locations: Border Street, Heckle, Homans Creek. So these would be all kind of in the same subject location as the subject property. And then on page 17, I have some large comparables here. So you can see some Inkster, Sherwin, Logan, Hutchings, and Homans Creek. So the rent comparables range from January 2019 to July 2022. Lease terms range from 1 to 6 years. Leasable areas range from 5,150 square feet to 58,235 square feet. The wall heights range from 14 feet to 25 feet. The effective year bills range from 1960 to 2000. And the rents in place range from $6.75 a square foot to $10.70 a square foot. So as I indicated, we're using a blended rent of $666. So I believe that would be supported by the comparables. Now if we turn to page 18 of my brief, I had mentioned that we are adding some additional land value. So as you saw in the photo, some of obviously the higher land to plan ratio. So that's why we're adding some surplus land value. So if you look under page 18, you'll see the subject. So we have a total area of 108,386 square feet of additional area, roughly 2.488 acres. We're applying the land rate of $3.40 a square foot, which then gives us the value of $368,000. So if we look at the comparables here I've shown here, so I have 4 comparables here, located on 12 Charles Street, 830 Century, Oak Point Highway, and 25 Foster. So they range from size from 69,706 square feet to 119,996 square feet, roughly 1.6 to 2.7 acres. I can see the zonings range from M1 to M3, as well as C3 commercial, this dual zoning. Sale dates range from May 2019 to March 2022. And the rents per square foot range from $6.28 a square foot to $15.43 a square foot. So those would be the rent comparable or the land sale comparables that would support the additional surplus land value we've added. Okay, if we turn to page 19 in my brief on the cap rate information, so you can see under industrial, so we've applied a cap rate of 5.40%. So it does fall within the city's 20th to 8th percentile. So if you're looking at some of the other outside sources, I'm mindful the cap rate does fall at some of the range of some of those comparables, or some of the outside sources as well. But again, like we said in the previous property, factors that would drive cap rate would be factors such as age, size, location, wall height, land to plan ratio, those factors. So. Okay, so if we turn to page 20 of my brief, this is just the municipal assessment actors group information. Now if we turn to page 21 of my brief, this is the income expense measure that we have been provided. They have it is an owner occupied property. They have put a rent in as far as I can tell, it's more of a book rent. I'm not so I just acknowledge that from what we can see here. So if we turn to page 22, this is just further income expense mailer that they submitted. You can check, they've checked off owner occupied as well. So. Okay, so if we turn to page now 23 of my brief, I've just shown some permits in here. Just as I indicated, there are some additions that were added to the building, so I'm just trying to give some context to those. So page 23, this is the first addition that was added. It was a one-story added to the main building. So this was roughly about, it was around 3,000 square feet, or 3,150 square feet they added. If you look at the actual floor plan, which I have in file. So that was the first addition that was added. Like I said, I have some pictures, I'll go through it. So I just don't want to, just to make things flow better. If we turn to page 24 of my brief, these were the bay buildings in the back that were added. So these were added in 2021. So there's one at 16,000 square feet, the larger one, and then one added 8,000 square feet, which I've already spoken to as well. And then on page 26, this was a further addition that was added in 2024 to the rear of the existing building, which was roughly 6,900 square feet. Okay, so if we turn to page 27 of my brief, so just to give you some ideas here, I've shown some pictures just to show so everything makes sense. So this is a picture taken from roughly 2018. So you can see this at the time, there was just the one building at the top. Now at the bottom here, you can see this is when they had the additional 2 larger bay buildings in the back at the side. And if you also look at the main building at the very bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a little building with a roof that's blue. That was the first addition that was added in 2021. So you just get an idea of what that addition was added. And then if we go to page 28 of my brief, just another photo. If you look at actually the main building again, the rear of the building, you'll see an additional building. So that was added in 2024, and that was roughly 6,900 square feet, which was one of the premises I spoke to in my income workup. So just to give some more, hope that kind of clears things up a bit. If there's any further questions, I can answer them as that comes. But so those are just all the different additions that were added recently. Page 29 of my brief. This is just a floor plan of the main building, just to show. You can see the main building and the 2 buildings, the one in the back, and then the back addition that was added in the back, and the one at the bottom left-hand corner. This is just another floor plan of the 2021 edition when it was built. Page 31 of my brief. This is the recent edition that was added in 2024, and you can see the overall shape of the addition. And then lastly, on page 32, I've just shown another floor plan of that, just to show the closer image of it, just to get it in its entirety. We turn to page 33 of my brief. These are just the additional buildings that were added in the back, just to show them what they were, the buildings. Again, once 8,000 square feet, 16,000 square feet that's been established. And then just another photo on page 34, just to show another photo of those 2 buildings, just more zoomed in. Okay, so there was also, this property was inspected actually in 2023 by another assessor. So he had taken some pictures. So I'm just putting the pictures in just to show the building itself. These were taken September 14th, 2023. So the first page on page 35, this is just some photos of the main buildings at the front here, as you can see. Page 36, this is just some front foyer area. Page 37. You can actually see the top here. This was when the addition was being built in the back that I already spoken to. So you can see at the time it was being worked, it hadn't been finished, but it was being built. Bottom page 37 is just another photo of the main building. This continues on page 38. 39, just some further photos. Page 40, these are the bay buildings, just some pictures of the bay buildings. Page 41, that's just a picture of the parcel from the rear. And then you can see another photo at the bottom of the bay building. Page 42 is just some further photos of the bay buildings. Bottom page 43, this is just some further photos. Page 44, this continues. So you can see here, they've been labeled. So maybe I'll just kind of go through the pictures briefly, just so you can kind of see them. So if you've not already looked at them. Page 46, just some photos of the office hallway space. This continues on page 48, 49, 50, just some further photos from the office and then the storage space in the back. And then page 51 is just another photo of the warehouse space of the main building in the back. And then lastly, this continues on page 52, just some further photos of the main warehouse building. So that being said, I believe that concludes my presentation, and I hope if there's any questions, I can answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, questions?
Yes, thank you. Very, very good workup. I mean, description. I'm just trying to figure some stuff out here.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can imagine. No problem. So
yeah, I'm just trying to relate your areas to the sketches, just so I know. So 22488 is the old building.
So yeah, here I'll give you some more context. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. So so basically, 2248 would be the main building, including that one addition that was added at the very bottom right-hand corner with the blue.
Okay, so that's the total with the addition. Okay, yeah, and then the 8,000 square feet. I take it that's the building at the northwest, furthest northwest, the smaller one. Okay,
the smaller one, correct? Yeah.
And then 16,000 is the longer one.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't figure out the 6,900.
Yeah, see, that's the one. I apologize. It should have been. It was supposed to be included in the main area, but it was not. I don't know why. When it was added, it wasn't done. But if you actually look at page, the best way to look at it is page 28 of my brief. Can you see that at the main building, at the back there? Do you see that addition there? like that gray building.
Oh, yeah, 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 okay,
Yeah, so
okay,
that's the
gotcha.
That's the 6,900 square feet, so yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. And all of these buildings are permanent buildings, steel framed buildings, are they? And the pictures, and you have the sketches here. You don't have mechanical sketches by any chance?
I probably do somewhere, but I apologize. I didn't put them in the brief. I didn't want to make it too much bigger.
Oh, no, what I was wondering is, for example, page 31 has got a mechanical drawing in here and interceptor pit, um, trenching. I was just looking for heating, that's all.
Oh, you know what? One thing I'll note is actually when I looked at look at the permits, actually, they do indicate that they say, when they were taking out the two bay buildings, they do say heated commercial storage. So
Yeah, okay, and I knowing what they use them for, I wouldn't disagree. I was just trying to make sure I get my everything straight here.
Sure.
The question on the pictures that were included here on page starting page 35. When this is 2023, these were taken.
yeah, like this was one of the other assessors had inspected this property. He just had taken these, so yeah.
And was there an income expense form from this time period?
From 2023. Well, the mailer, I mean, obviously that would be, we're showing the 2022 mailer, but because obviously
that's what I was just looking for. So 2022, that's on page
21.
21 and 22. Okay, and saying fully owner occupied. Okay. Now they have a different square footage of 44184, and is that because these permits were taken out after this was done for the additions?
Yeah, like, well, for example, yeah, the one at the back, the 6,900 square feet wasn't added till 2024. So that's, and this is being a 22 mailer, they wouldn't have had that on this particular mailer, so.
Okay. And then last question, I think, no, I have a few more actually, but page 15. So aside from the, I don't know what they were, the errors, whatever you want to call it, this was all done by the model?
Here's all Drive though, correct, yes.
Okay, so you're using potential rent at 355 then?
355, 388, correct, yes.
And that's on 53,000 square feet?
5388, 388,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, and I don't know, I didn't see a calculation of what that was overall, but
I think it was, oh, sorry.
666.
Yes, correct, yeah, sorry, blended rate.
Okay. And everything else is based on the model. And the land value, you've got sales on 18.
Correct.
And you're using 340 a square foot. Of course, that's well under any of your comparables. Not complaining necessarily, but why would that be?
Well, like I said, the thing is, like, I'm mindful of the fact that I would consider this more of a surplus land, not really excess land where you can't really subdivide it. You couldn't sell it off. So I think the value there would be less value in the sense of, they can further expand it, but it's not really, and obviously, land sales typically would be surplus per se. But yeah, so yes, I'm mindful of the fact they are slightly high. They are definitely high.
And all of this I did put in my report, and it's going to be the same issue as before. But I discovered two registrations on the environmental database on these. Did you happen to look into any of those?
Like I said, I checked the current registered contaminated site list, and there's nothing on there, so I don't have anything other than that. So.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to get a picture of the whole site here, and I'm nothing to criticize any of your work on, but there's some land that is, I'm looking page
Page 6 might be 20,
28. Okay, which page? 7? Just in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah. I see it. Yeah.
Well, actually, page 7 isn't too bad. It's oriented with the east to the top, but there's some plots of land that are marked out in orange squares.
Yes.
And are you aware that the small lots, not the street right of ways, are owned by the same company who owns 50 omens?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm actually dealt with this property, so I'm familiar with it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. And there's um, okay. Here's what I was looking for. Page 6. That street is marked Parent. It's just cut off. You can see the PAR. Does that sound right to you?
Oh, PAR. Yes, I can see that. Parent Street, correct? Yes, I see that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you? There's a registration on Parent and a registration on the subject. Was this at one point a landfill site or a dumping site?
I don't have that information, so.
No, I didn't think you would. I'm just trying to sort it out myself. Okay. And the current owner, was this their purchase of it, to your knowledge, or you've got a sale listed page?
2.
Yeah, 3,200,000. Do you have the purchaser on that?
You know what? Give me a moment to see if I can see here. I believe it was. I believe the purchaser was Handyman Transport Limited.
Yeah. Okay. That and Handyman, and the current owner is a numbered company controlled by Unijet. There is another transaction, and I'm just wondering if it didn't show up in your search, or you didn't find it.
All I have is just unfortunately this one where it just shows that I didn't do a title search or anything like that, unfortunately.
Oh,
so.
okay. No, it just when I looked at their occupancy claim from 2022 that they moved in, that it might have been registered, or but actually I think it was a share sale though. Those are my those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Purvis, questions?
I want to follow up on Mr. Neufeld's questions regarding the photo at page 7 and 6. There's sort of a delineation on the adjacent property. Would that mean there's a plan of subdivision that's been filed on that property? It's just not subdivided, or
like the one just below it, you mean? Or
well, if we look on page 7,
sure, yeah,
there's all those orange rectangles.
Correct, yeah.
It looks like there's a road allowance because there's on your map, there's an Alma Street that clearly that's not a street.
No.
So is that sort of an undeveloped, is that are all those individual parcels divided properties, or is it just a plan of subdivision? Is it
you know what?
Titles?
You know what? It's an interesting one. I mean, Mr. Neufeld probably has a lot more. I actually dealt with this property before, but yeah, I think it was planned to be one developed at one point, but it didn't go through, and they couldn't. Yeah, so basically, it's interesting. There are the parcels. Some of them are actually there's one parcel where it's like 6 or 7 are defined as one, but then there's some that are separate. So, but yes, I believe it was supposed to be a subdivision at one point, but it didn't go through, and then now I'm not sure what the plans are for what they're going to do with it going forward, though. So.
Okay, but there's nothing there right now.
No, it's just all vacant land. So yeah.
Okay, so looking at the same picture on page 7, so there's the smaller of the truck bays, and then just up to the sort of northwest of it, there's a white square. It shows up on some of the other photos as well, like some of the overheads. What is that? Is that a building? Is it just a?
I believe it's more just a. You know what? Give me a second here. I can actually. I apologize. I should have maybe put a closer image of it. I'm just gonna see if I can. I think it might be a Quonset. Maybe I don't think it even is that. I think it's just like an open. Here, let me see. I can actually look at it right now. Yeah, it's essentially just like a Quonset. Essentially, yeah, just an open Quonset with just It's
roof
not-
to keep the rain off of.
Exactly, covering materials and such, yes, yeah. So we're not adding that to the, we're not adding that or anything like that or including.
Okay, and then those two truck bays or garages or whatever, I did hear that they are heated and
Correct, yes.
and insulated.
Yes, they are heated, yes, so as far as my knowledge, yes.
Like that's what the permits.
Yeah, and that's what they've indicated on the permits too, yes. Like I said, and obviously one of our assessors did inspect it, and even in the photos, you can kind of see that they've been, you know, walled and such, so.
Okay, and you said it was inspected by someone other than you. So those
Correct.
photos were taken in 2023 by another.
Yeah, another assessor had taken those and inspected the property, yes.
Dude, that's my questions regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt, questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Harling, the land to building ratio, or is 11.5 to 1. So you've got here 108,365 square feet as being excess land or surplus land. What is the difference? What is
Well, excess land would be more, we would classify it as like land that you could actually subdivide and sell off. So you could sell you could sell a piece of land to someone else and say, okay, now they can develop on it, right? But in this case, as you can see, the way the land's situated, like you couldn't sell this off individually, right? Because there's no access. And so we consider surplus land just saying they have additional space to develop and the land does have value, but we would apply a lower rate just because we're saying, well, it's not as valuable as, let's say, land you could sell off per se.
So the 108,000 square feet, what does that bring the ratio down to? Or like I think it worked out to be about 18%.
Yeah, about that.
Is
I
that
think
standard?
That would be probably pretty accurate. I apologize, I didn't do the calculation. I apologize. I should have, honestly. So, but yeah, we like I said, we're I guess just a portion of the back part. We're not assessing like the entire back part because I'm mindful of they still need access to get around and stuff. So it's not the entire, like, I mean, it's obviously larger back there, but there's some buildings there too that would impede, you can develop as well. So we've only done a portion, if you will. So, yeah.
And the evaluation of $3.40 a square foot is quite conservative.
Yeah, like I said, we would put a lower rate on it due to the fact that we're mindful of it's not as valuable as like an excess land, if you will. So marketable.
All right. All right. I thank you very kindly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. I just have some questions with respect to the photographs of the offices that appear at around page 46 to 48. Those offices are located in the main building. Is that correct?
And starting on page 46?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
offices, there's a boardroom, it looks like, and there's a hallway and some office.
Correct. Like I said, unfortunately, I haven't inspected the property, but when I spoke to the assessor, these would be from there is a bit of a mezzanine second space. That's where this particular office space would be. So but it's in the main building, correct? Yes. So.
Okay, and is this the area that has the slightly newer gray roof or the slightly newer blue roof, or do you know?
You know what? I think this might be. I think that office portion is still in the main building. Like I said, unfortunately, he didn't differentiate. I should have asked, I guess, ahead of time. But I'm pretty sure it's still part of the main building with the white roof, if you will. So. Okay,
thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Neufeld, your evidence, please.
Okay, thanks. This is sorry. I'm looking for my screens here. So my mic's on, right?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, no, I just can't find the screen on here. I got 10 open here. Well, a bit frustrating here. Our workup is wrong. And obviously the information that we got came from an older source, failed to recognize new construction. I didn't prepare this, and as an appraiser, I cannot give you an opinion of value without doing a report. So all I can do is live with what was presented. So I'm taking a very simple way out of this. We're not going to challenge the assessor's NOI because ours is all wrong. We're just going to talk about the cap rate and the land. And so what we would be presenting as a total value would be, so I'm scrambling here. The assessor put forward an NOI of 326, 153, and we put 7% on. I got to live with that. That changes our number to 4,659,328, and that's our total number. That we're requesting 4,659,328 rounded to 4,660,000. The other pointing out on this, there was a sale. I think it was a share sale, I guess, because I was advising them on it, the owners on it. Again, this is one of these companies I do their in-house work on regular valuation work. They have been searching a long time for places to park their sewer trucks because difficulty to find truck parking, and this site became available, and they bought it. I would suggest undue pressure. I verbally can tell you the sale price was $5 million. And I didn't present you any evidence of that. And I thought it would be in the assessor's brief, or we thought it would be. However, that's something you should consider. In regard to the site, bit of background, and I'll have to use the assessor's pictures. You know, our mess ups today are, we just had so many to prepare at the same time. So not typical of our normal shoddy work. It's worse. The 50 Omens is a very large lot, and it butts the I'm looking on the page 7. There's the subdivision. These are all separately titled lots. Then my assessor's page 7. So when the some of them have been combined, and we had a site of survey. Nothing turns on this really, but these are all zoned RR5, and the total area of this little community planned is about 3.5 acres. So essentially, you need a zoning change on it, and it's and a big one too, because it's rural residential 5 acre minimum. And each of these lots have been subdivided into very, very small parcels. So those are real streets, right-of-ways, owned by the city of Winnipeg. On that one, as I said, was Parent, Alma, and there's 2 other streets. Back lanes owned by the city. This land isn't going anywhere, and for a long time. Now, what is important of it is that we didn't mention it either, and this all spun on our last discussion on what constitutes an environmental registry from a hearing a few days ago. The subject does have a registration on it, 50 Omens, registration 20313 to RFK Trucking. The lands in this little lots also have a registration on them, and I don't know in favor of they're just called vacant land. They have a 28548 is their registration number. I'm going to give you an assumption here. My guess, I think that this was likely a dumping site of some sort, which went all the way from Logan through these lots and into this land on 50 Omens, because the lands to the south have never been developed, and that's my guess on it. And take it as a guess. What you don't have to take as a guess is the fact that there's a registration. Had I done this workup, I would have been far more critical on that issue. I didn't do it. I wouldn't have capped that much higher, but this is what we presented, and this is what we're living with. I told you I can't change the value. I can only agree or disagree with what's been presented. I disagree with 7%. As far as the land value goes, this land is obviously impacted. environmentally impacted. The lands in this area, I think it's a big question mark. I don't think anyone's going to be looking at any sort of value for it until they know the cost of cleanup and how extensive it is, and that is unknown. Based on that, you cannot assess or appraise an unknown quantity by giving it a value. That's inappropriate for anybody's standards. I think the fairest way to deal with this is disregard it for now, and if it's proven under the burden of proof by the assessor that there's no major cleanup costs, then we would accept their value on land. But nothing's been proven. It's all the unknown. So my only statement is that we'll accept the assessor's NOI. The cap rate, we have to take what we inserted. However, this is a trucking business with environmental registrations, and the current use is going to be sewer cleaning trucks. Actually, I don't think you're going to get an environmental registration on that, because whatever they clean out of there is generally biodegradable. But that's our request for value, and I apologize. This is not a professional workup. I think I looked at the sale, and I'm telling you what it was at 5 million. We're requesting 4,660,000, and that is my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Harlan, any questions?
Just two quick questions. So the first question, just regarding the contamination, is the whole site contaminated, or is it just a portion of it, or from your knowledge, I guess, or from this registration you've been spoken to, or?
That's the extent of what I have is the just the number and the address and the company is there. I have my other source open, my printed site, and just want to see if there's any more information on this. Wait, Omand. No, it's just RKF Truck Lines Limited, former owner. The old registration number is 1457. The new registration is 20313. That would lead me to believe this is a very early registration when the list was opened up, and I think they began writing these about 1979, so pre-1979.
Okay. You know what? Then I think that's all the questions I have. Then, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Questions?
I had none, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Purvis?
I also have no questions.
I have lots of questions about the share sale or the sale, but I think I'll distill it to one. When did that sale go through?
I've been scrambling to look for it. I thought it was much later than the income and expense. I'm just looking through my records because and our office, by the way, was the broker on it too. I was going to walk over and ask them. I thought it was post reference, but I see the income and expense form doesn't support that, so I don't know.
Would some of the constructions, some of the newer constructions depicted in the photographs be post-sale, or were all those buildings there at the time of sale, or is that a question you can answer?
There's one source for that, which would be I'm just looking at the appellant on the permit. Okay, so cell tower, no one cares. So who's the permit? 2925924. It's that date 2020. No, that would be the old owner for sure. Second permit taken out by Nick Dawn. Well, I know Nick Dawn is Unijet. So that would be their permit on page 24.
Okay. Thank you.
Again, I'm not sure if they were a tenant at the time or the I'm or the property owner. I have no more to offer you.
Well, that's fine. No, thanks. Mr. Harling, any summary?
No, thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Newfield, any summary?
Again, I'd rather we get to the truth than any sort of positions. We have a messed up valuation for you. And I think our only issue would be to look at the assessor's brief and request a higher capitalization rate to take into account that it's not a warehouse, it's a sewer truck storage site with an environmental registration on it, and as such, the land, until proven clean, is not clean. And I've made adjustments only on those 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. Then, having heard the evidence, we will conclude this matter. Maybe we'll take 5 minutes before we start item number 5. That's 300 Soto Crescent. So if we can take a 5-minute recess, come back just after 10:30. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, please. And if we can turn to number 5 on the docket, the street address is 300 Soto Crescent. I see that there's an allegation of non-compliance with respect to this property with the relief being sought. So, Mr. Harling, would you please introduce the property, the roll number, and then go to your evidence with respect to the allegation of non-cooperation?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the file number is 24-4198. The roll number is 0708125900. The address is 300 Salto Crescent. The owner is File Number Company 5110408, Manitoba Ltd. The 2025 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 has an assessed value of $5,445,000. Okay, so as you indicated, yes, there is we did have an issue of non-compliance. We did not receive the mailer for this property, so that's the preliminary issue we were seeking. So if we turn to page 2 of my brief, just a request for information. So we had not received the 21 or 2022 mailer. Those are the last. So if we turn now to pages 17 of my brief, this is the certified mailer that we sent out. So you can see at the top there, the tracking number. The date it was sent was on June 9th, 2023. And then the mailing address we send it to is 300 Salto Crescent. So there's the first page. Pages 18, 19, and 20 are the blank mailer. Pages 20 and 21 of my brief, this is the tracking number, just to show that it was delivered. And then if we look on pages 22 of my brief, this was the signature provided by Canada Post with the item number. And yes, so like I said, and the mailing address we have on file is 300 Salto Crescent, which is where we send the tax bill, and is which is the mailing address of the property. So, so that being said, I believe that concludes my presentation on the non-compliance. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld, questions on the non-compliance issue?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Merritt, any questions on the non-compliance issue?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Purvis?
No questions.
And I have no questions. Mr. Neufeld, have you any evidence to present with respect to the non-compliance issue?
I have none. I have no idea. And obviously, as a legal matter, I don't like involving myself in it. It's usually something I get Mr. Mercury to assist on. He's unavailable, so I have nothing to say.
Okay. Thank you. Then what we'll do is we'll take a short recess to deliberate in camera and provide you with our decision. Thank you. We'll call the meeting back to order. We've had an opportunity to consider the evidence and deliberate. It would appear as though an appropriate request for information was made pursuant to section 16 sub 1 of the Municipal Assessment Act. As a result of that, it would appear, the evidence indicates that the applicant failed or refused to provide the request or to comply with the request for information. Again, that's pursuant to section 53 sub 3. And so we are going to place the burden of proof on the applicant, Mr. Neufeld, on all of the matters at issue. And the Relief under section 54 sub 3.2 will also be in effect. So, Mr. Neufeld, if you could please provide us your evidence with respect to this matter.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to request this assessment be confirmed and give us a bit more time to review what happened. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Given that, I'm assuming Mr. Harling, Mr. Merritt, Mr. Purvis, there is no questions, no submission to be made, but if that's the case, Mr. Harling, I know you've read in the file number and the roll number. You provided the valuation as well at $5,445,000. You were muted, but I saw your indication of
Apologies. Yeah, correct.
okay, those numbers having been entered and heard the evidence and the confirmation, we will conclude this matter and move on to number 6 on the docket. That is the street address of 75 Ames Road. Mr. Harling, would you please introduce this property and lead us through your evidence?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the file number is 24-3906. The roll number is 080058242200. The address is 75 Ames Road, and the owner is High Track 1974 Incorporated. The 2025 roll year, based on a reference date of April 1st, 2023, is assessed value of $4,065,000. If you look under page 1 of my brief, under the property description, we'll see this is a one-story building. The actual year built and effective year built are the year 2000. The wall heights are 22 feet. The construction class is steel frame and metal and walls. The zoning is manufacturing M2 or M2 manufacturing general. We have a land area of 174,091 square feet with a plan area of 21,705 square feet, which gives us a land to plant area of 8.02. And then lastly, we have a total leasable area of 25,640 square feet. Okay, if we turn to page 2 of my brief, we'll see the request for income information has been received. Flip below that, the subject sale history. There was a recent sale, but it is post-reference, so I can't speak to it. So I will not be speaking to that. And if you look at the bottom of page 2, we have no leases in place on our system. Okay, so if we turn to page 3 of my brief, see the subject property location. So this location is probably located again as indicated on Ames Road. So you can see here, this is located just around basically on the south perimeter, as you can see here. So it's very close to St. Anne's Road, as you can see, St. Anne's Road, as you can see on the photo here. So kind of in the St. Patel area, if you will. So you can kind of got an idea of where it's situated here. Turn to page 4 of my brief. This is just an aerial view photo, again, just to show the subject again on Ames Road, which turns into Creek Bend Road, and then as you can see the permanent highway there, and then St. Anne's is just to the west. Turn to page 5 of my brief. This is just the parcel outline of the subject. Just zoomed out. If we turn to page 6 of my brief, you'll see another photo of the subject, of the parcel outline again, where this and the property, how it's situated on the parcel of land. If we turn to page 7 of my brief, you'll see the property photo of the subject. One thing I'll just kind of note is, like, I know I previously mentioned that the wall heights were 22 feet. So that would be 22 feet for the main building. As you can see, the building in the back is a much higher wall height. So I don't know why it didn't show up, but that would be closer to around a 35-ish feet, I believe, from the back, the rear of that rear portion. So I just didn't have that updated. So I just thought I'd mention that. I mean, you could obviously see that. I just wanted to kind of make that note. But yeah, so here's another photo of the property on page 7. Page 8, this is another photo from the subject from a different angle. And in the back, the property on page 8. So you can see the storage space in the back there. It's got the loading bay doors on both sides. Page 9 is just another photo from a different angle. Okay. Page 10 is just another photo of the subject. Again, just closer in, so just to get a better idea of the building. You can see the differentiations between the buildings. Page 11 is just, again, a further photo just to show the building and then the loading bay doors on the sides and then the bottom, page 11. Turn to page 12 of my brief. This is just a street view photo on Ames Road facing the subject. So you can see here where the building is from the front. And then I've shown here in the bottom of page 12 another angle just to show the main building in the rear, the building and the attached in the back. And then on page 13 of my brief, it's just another further photo of the subject. So you just kind of see how the building is in its entirety. Okay, so we turn to page 14 of my brief, and you'll see the income workup. So as I indicated, our total leasable area is 25,640 square feet. We're applying a model rent of $9.19 a square foot, which then gives us a potential rent of $235,632. We're allowing 1.5% for vacancy, which then gives us an effective gross income of $232,098. We're allowing 3% for non-republic expenses, as well as $4 a square foot of shortfall, which then gives us an overall net operating income of $223,597. And then lastly, we're applying an overall model cap rate of 5.50%, which then gives us the estimated value of $4,065,000. If we turn to page 15 of my brief, you'll see my rent comparables. So you can see some locations. We have Niagara Road, Watt Road, King Edward Street, Sherwin, Clarence, and Day Street. So some of the comparables are in different market regions just due to the fact of there's not a lot of comparables in the area, so I did have to expand my search slightly. But I found comparables of similar size and wall heights and age. So the lease start dates range from June 2019 to January 2023. Lease terms range from 1 to 10 years. Leasable areas range from 15,000 square feet to 30,240 square feet. Wall heights range from 14 feet to 27 feet. Effective real builds range from 1960 to 1982. And the rents in place range from $9 a square foot to $11.50 a square foot. So that being said, I believe the rent comparables would bracket the model rent we've applied. If we turn to page 16, my brief under the cap rate information. So this would fall within the range of the cap rates for the city of Winnipeg's 28th percentile. It would fall within the range of some of the cap rates in the outside sources. So I'm mindful of it's a little bit lower than some of the other outside sources. But based on the age, the building of the age, wall height, access, land to plan ratio, those would be some factors that would also drive the cap rate. Okay, page 17, my brief is just the municipal assessment act excerpts. If we turn to page 18, my brief, this is just the income expense mailer the property owners provided us. So they've essentially filled out their actual expenses or their rental income. So it's not they didn't fill it on our form, but yeah, this is the expenses or the rents that or rental income they've indicated. There's obviously two tenants or two businesses in here, so but this is what they provided us. It continues on page 19. So on page 20, this is just the 2021 mailer, what they provided us, just to show that they had filled it out last time. So this is how they filled it out then. So the rental income looks comparable to the current one. So this is on pages 21 and 22, and then continues on page 23. And lastly, on page 24, my brief, this is just a floor plan we have on file. So this is the main floor for the main building area. If you can see here, so you can see the newer shop area in the back, and then the main building in the front, and then the sales department attachment at the back. And then if you look on page 25 of my brief, there is a secondary mezzanine space area that we've included in our leasable area, as you can see here. So it's an office space here. So that was the additional difference in the leasable area to the plan area, so that we've included. And then on pages 26, this is just the permit the tape was taken out when the building was built, just to show that that's the total area of the building. So being said, I believe that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harley. Mr. Neufeld, questions?
Yes. You were talking about wall heights. Now, just clarify for the board that when an assessor talks about wall heights, you use an external measurement?
Yeah, we're using exterior, correct.
And in terms of the area here on your page, one, you indicate leasable 25,640, and that's the same as the workup then on page 14?
That would be correct, yes.
And the property owner has indicated on page 20 that it's 21,720.
Correct, yeah.
Why wouldn't you use their number for leasable?
Oh, well, as I indicated, as I showed in the floor plan there, they do have that secondary area that they would have active care control of. So that's why we included it. So
you say they have care and control of it. Now we've been through this for a couple of years prior, we have sent the city the lease. You understand that Wajax, the tenant, has care and control of the entire site. They've determined it's 21,000 feet because everybody has agreed the upper level is obsolete. It is not for rent, is empty and not deemed rentable. Were you aware of any of that?
I was not aware of that, no. I've not inspected the property, so.
Okay, no, it's fine. It's there's no and you realize that second floor space is only accessible through the main floor area. There's no separate entrance.
From my understanding, yes, I think I was aware of that.
Okay. And the other question was, does the land service with sewer and water?
I do not have that information at the moment, so I do not have that information now. So
It is on your website. I'm just wondering if you looked at your own records.
I can quickly check if you give me a moment, actually. So.
Okay.
City services, sewer, water, sewer. From my understanding, I don't believe I see those now.
I'm looking at the city's website, and if you just plug in the address and look it up, it says no sewer, no water.
Yeah, I just agreed with you. So yeah.
Sorry, you agree?
Yes, I just indicated yes.
Oh, I said you said you just agree. I thought you said I couldn't hear it right. I thought you said you disagreed.
Oh no. I said I agree, yes, because I can see that, yes.
Okay, good. And the going back, sorry, to the mailer. What was the lease start on page? I can't read this. Page 23.
It was, I think it was 2000.
Yeah. Okay. The 2000, and the lease end 2023.
Correct. Yeah, 2023.
Okay, so a fairly long lease, did your I think I forwarded this to you, but maybe I don't know if you can check your records. Did you receive the lease amendment dated October 28th, 2019?
I have nothing in my brief that shows that. No, I don't have anything like that. So
Okay. And just about finished. There's not much here to. Yeah, I know what. Page 14. You're calling this a warehouse. It's not in use as a warehouse, is it?
I believe there is some office space, and there's also, I think there's some retail space that's being used too, I guess, by Wajax as well, from my understanding.
Wajax is sells and services forklifts, correct?
Yes, correct. That's correct. That is correct.
And the capitalization rate, everything then on page 14 is from the model?
That would be model derived, correct.
Right. Just page and I haven't seen this aerial. Page 9, what was the date of this aerial photograph? Any chance you know?
This is actually fairly recent. I think this might be as of 2024 potentially, possibly. Let me just check.
Oh, okay. And so 45 Ames has a bunch of excavators. There's a lot to the north. I guess that's car storage.
Yeah, they're just storing cars there. Yeah.
Okay, but then the aerial from the one I was looking at. Sorry, page 5. Would that be roughly around the same time period?
Right here. Let me see here. Apologize. Yeah, that should have been around roughly similar time. So, I mean, it's hard to tell because it's further zoomed out. So.
Yeah, and these road improvements you were talking about, Creek Bend joining to Ames, at what? Oh, I'm supposed to call it Amy's. I don't know why. Someone told me I'm supposed to, but at what point was the bridge completed? Do you know?
I don't have that date.
Okay, And as part of this, do you know the scope of the work that was done on the perimeter plan amendments, changes, whatever?
For we talking about for the
Because
road?
that the whole road, the whole traffic flow. Do you have any history on that at all? I mean, you don't have to. I was just wondering if you did.
I don't have that information, no.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Purvis, questions?
Yeah, getting back to that square footage difference, can you take me to one of your photos? Just trying to figure out where that difference is, that 4,000 square foot.
Are we talking about the
discrepancy, the
the 4,000 square feet? Yeah, like I said, obviously, Mr. Neufeld we obviously don't agree on it, but yeah, from my understanding, it's in the main, like the main building. If you see, like as Mr. Neufeld indicated, when you walk in from the main entrance, there's a secondary steps or stairs to get up to like a mezzanine area.
So that is an addition to. I'm just looking at it. You haven't inspected this property?
I have not personally inspected it. No, I haven't had a chance.
Has it been inspected by the city recently, or?
As far to my knowledge, no, I don't. It's actually one that we were looking to, but we just haven't had a chance to. No, so I don't have the information the last time.
Have any photos? I'm just looking at say your photo on page 10.
Yes, yeah, page 10, yeah.
There's the main building. It's got the sign on the bottom left corner, and there's a couple of windows, and then there's a sort of a building shooting off from it.
Yeah,
brown with a white roof. Is that the 4,000 square feet, or that's that?
No, that's different actually. If you look on, we have a floor plan file actually. If you look at page 24, it's a little older, but you can see that's the space there. That's different. So
24, you said?
Yes.
Okay, just because it's a.
So the bottom, you can kind of see the bottom there, like that one that sticks out at the very bottom of the pit. That would be that space there. So you can kind of see, actually, if you look for me, you can see some stairs there. Actually, if you kind of you can kind of see them in the drawing. So again, like this is like a bit of an older drawing. So, but yeah, so it would be in the main building, if you will. So,
okay, just because it's a fairly large discrepancy. There's not uncommon for there to be sort of 50 or 70 square feet of difference with the numbers, but 4,000-ish square feet's a pretty large building.
Yeah, like you said, yeah, I'm sure Mr. Neufeld, he'll go through his position on that. But yeah, exactly, yeah. So
okay, that's those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm questioning the square footage and the 4,000 square feet that are missing. That's a substantial amount. Would the city be prepared to go back to redo their calculations based on the 21,720?
You know what? At this time, it's going to be, maybe this will be something we have to inspect and maybe make some potential look at it. But at this time, no, there'll be no changes. So
okay. And just so I have this right, there's no sewer and no water to this building?
Yes, correct. I mean, Mr. Neufeld was correct when he indicated that. Yes, they don't have sewer or water, or city sewer water, I guess, if you will. So.
Yeah. And you're using a cap rate of 5.5%. So that is applicable via the model and based on the, area and the year that it was built in 2000?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, area, wall height, size, location, all those factors, correct.
Okay. I thank you very kindly. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. My question was, Mr. Harling, at page 18, the Carnoustie Holdings income and expense mailer, it's got entries for Russell Metals and Wajax Industries. The only one that is relevant to this property is Wajax Industries. Is that correct?
Yes, like you said, they've clearly combined multiple properties in here, I guess, or the incomes from different properties. So yeah, but Wajax's would be the current tenant that's using the space, though. Yes. Okay, and that is showing the annual rent of $222,630, and that would be for the 21,720 square feet, which is the
amount they've indicated on their income and expense mailer from 2021, I believe.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Neufeld, your evidence, please.
Thank you. Sorry, I was reading something else and I didn't see Russell Metals. Give me one sec. Where was that stated?
Well, that's on page 18. There's a rental income from Carnoustie Holdings that shows Russell Metals at $328,000 and then Wajax Industries. And Mr. Harling indicated that there was just a combination of two properties showing the total rental.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, right, because that's Carnoustie's financial statements from all of their rental properties. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So 75 Ames is a little bit of well, first of all, you're not going to hear the word environmental today, at least. But it does not have sewer and water, and it was in a land that was on the perimeter highway south. It used to be zoned what's called RMU, which is rural and industrial, which is a very, very a good zoning for bad uses, but that was all changed to M2. But the big issue on this property, other than the sewer and water, were the changes in the roadway. You'll note that the lease was drawn up in 2020, and at that time, they enjoyed access from eastbound and westbound perimeter highway. And the road changes, I think the assessors got the better picture than I do. I can just walk you through this as quickly on his page 4, and it shows how Creek Bend Road attaches to Amy's and then ends up on Sioux Road. So that there's a bridge on the Seine. That bridge in 2020 did not exist. It dead-ended. Amy's dead-ended. And by that bridge was completed somewhere around March of 2022. While this was happening, there were access changes. So approximately 2020, and I don't have the exact date, the access from eastbound perimeter highway was closed. So that's the perimeter crossover. That would its location, if you look on that map, is very close to where the green maple leaf is. So there was a turn in. So if you're coming from the west, you could turn into Amy's and access it that way. Then in I got this April of 2020, the westbound access. Sorry, no. March of 2022, after the bridge was finished, then the westbound access was closed from the perimeter highway. So now all access has to go down St. Anne's Road, come in Creek Bend, and access it there. And there now I'm just want to double check something here on my map. I think the access from Melnick, though, is still open. Well, Melnick is across the tracks, and no, that's closed too. You see Melnick Road is the other rural industrial area. So access has all been changed to just off St. Anne's from Creek Bend. So this is a site that makes and sells hydraulic equipment, like things like forklifts and agricultural equipment. And their location, they have one location on the south perimeter and one location close to the north perimeter. Their market is trucking and farmers. And this particular location is farm agricultural implements. So since this road work began, the site is really of little interest to them. Other than that, they have a long-term lease on it, and they have a site. When they first leased it in 2020 at the rates indicated on the assessor, that is true. Those were the numbers, but it's not worth that today because of the changes around it. And that's why we didn't use the lease. We usually do look at the lease. The second has to do with the unusable area, and that's located on, there's an upper level here. When this was first built, there was a sales office on top of the order desk. So that would be in the assessor's. I think he's got much better pictures than I do. Matthew did a great job here on his workups. And so on, I think you can see it clearly on page 7. There's 3 sections of the building. The small short section on the east side is just a single level, and there's it's a bit of a showroom. And then you can see the corner of the building where the 75 is on is 2 levels. And there's where the sound. The only entranceway is from the main building. I've been up there, inspected it, and I just found 20 pictures of it in our file, but we weren't good enough to give them to you. It's still vintage, original age, and it's not in use at all. The tenant has care and control of it. The tenant doesn't lease it. Parties have agreed it's not leasable, and because it's obsolete, and with the closures on the highway, even more so, that it's gone obsolete. And particularly, great picture in page 7. Look at that, he's got the excavators on the property site, so you can see what they do for a living. The road access was very important to them, and they've lost it. So it just diminishes the value of the building. And that's where we came up with a rent of $7 on the usable area. And we have a number of rents on page 3. We looked through them, and we're thinking of something with a good land allocation, a good utility, but locational disadvantages, and just estimated a rent of $7 on the site, based on these rents. But of course, the other issues are okay. The cap rate applied by the person who did this is 7%, and again, I just disagree with it. You have a site that's gone obsolete, that's lost its access, that catered to farmers, and the farmers can no longer get there with their equipment, and has no sewer and water. I don't think that's appropriate. But again, I can't change values on you. I can only tell you that cap rate is much too low for what it is. But that's our number, and we're not. Like I said, I can't change value myself right now, as it would violate our standards. I can merely comment on what I see. Rent's good, cap's way too low on our presentation, and the physical facts I've explained, I think are obvious. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Harlan, questions?
Just a couple quick questions. So I appreciate you kind of touching on some of those things. So I guess just another quick question I just wanted to ask you about, as I haven't inspected the property. I know you have. So speaking to that space there, the mezz or secondary space, if you want to call it. So like you said, the tenant technically does, so they do have active care control of it. It's just not being used, I guess, is what you're saying, I guess.
Yeah, you can go in there and walk up the stairs without, there are no barriers. There's no demised area. It's open, but there's nothing in it. Like, not even the tenants haven't even put their records in there. It's just vacant space. So, typically you might see the tenant say, well, we'll store stuff up there. They don't even do that.
Okay. Is it just bad space, I guess, or what's I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's set up, it's finished as office, and they don't need office space. They've got more than enough. As you can see from the pictures, they need space to put excavators in. There used to be a sales force based here, and that did help them at the time.
Okay, all right. And my second question is, I know you've spoken to your position on the rent. So, I guess that lease, I know, is a long-term lease. Like, is that is that like, are they still paying that same amount though, I guess? Is that lease?
Well, they did some changes on it in 2019, and some repair work that the number changed for a short amount, and that was before the street work was done. And I don't know what's happened since then. I think, yeah. I don't know the new numbers.
All right, then you know what? Then I'll just that's good. That's actually all the questions I have. Then thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Questions,
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Purvis,
I also have no questions. Thanks.
and I don't have any questions. Mr. Harling, any summary?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Neufeld, any summary?
Yes, and I'm not talking about assessments, just to see where, to show you where we do have, obviously you've heard the disagreement on the basic physical issues related to the site. And the 2023 assessment was, the Board of Revision decided that, and the city did appeal that. So we're still at odds on those issues. I think that they're obviously clear, and this is a property that does not fit the model in any way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Then, having heard the evidence, we will conclude this matter and move on to number 7 on the docket. That is the street address of 90 Creek Bend Road. Mr. Harling, if you would introduce the property and provide your evidence, please.
May I just briefly address a preliminary issue, and I don't think it's going to be troublesome.
Okay.
But there's a fair bit of information in the assessor's workup related to self-storage sites. And I have spoken to senior management on this, and I can't tell you what our discussions entailed, but this has been presented in the past, and it is the valuation that is their information that presented is based on a valuation of the business and the real estate. And it really isn't for the real estate alone. I have clarified this with some of the authors of the work as well. So if Mr. Harling is presenting it as information only on physical issues, I'm fine with it. But if there's anything in there related to valuation, I would point out that it is not a valuation guide in any way.
Would you be able to maybe clarify a bit more on that? What you're speaking?
Well,
to?
Everything, all the valuation of self-storage properties is based on a value in use, includes the business income, and as well as business expenses. So if you were looking at it as a typical valuation model, you would have to find a way to take out not only the business income, but the business expenses if you were trying to provide a valuation based on the source material you're using. And the source material, they don't do it. They're done by I don't know if anyone's familiar with the hotel model, but imagine the hotel model without adjustments versus the hotel model with adjustments, and that's what we're looking at. It's the business income. So I never had a chance to talk to Mr. Harling before this, and I don't want to discuss this relate any discussions we've had that in the board, but I just urge caution on it, and I trust him that he's understands this, and that it's there's a limitation on what he's provided, but I think it should be just removed.
Well, the decision on weight to give given evidence is, of course, something in the board's, in the panel's purview, and we will give it the appropriate weight. Mr. Harling, the evaluation that you have submitted is, it appears primarily, but subject, of course, to not trying to prejudge your evidence with respect to it the impression I have is that this is a square footage rental and it is parcel uses as an industrial warehouse. And that is how the valuation is being presented. If that is not the case, then we will have Mr. Neufeld certainly address that. But Mr. Harlan, I asked you to keep the comments Mr. Neufeld made about the business valuation in mind when you're providing your evidence on this.
Is it able to just get some clarification? Are you speaking just without going into too much detail, Mr. Neufeld? Are you speaking to the mailer, the income information that's been received? Is that what you're speaking to, I guess? Or?
Well, it's part of that. The mailer you're looking at is business, a business statement, and it's interesting, it's information, but it's not something that ad valorem realty tax assessment can rely on. You would then have to go through it in a fair detail to determine what was business income and what was business expense, and then adjust them. And the more you adjust something, the less valid it becomes. If you're going to go into it, you got to do a much better job than that, right? That's all I'm saying. We don't do it that way, but.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that was what you were kind of alluding to. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then that cleared that up then. Okay. Thank you. Just for clearing that up. So yeah, that's good there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harlan. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chairman. Okay. Okay. So the file number is 24-3955. The roll number is 0802121970. The address is 90 Creek Bend Road, and the owner is numbered company 6225 NWT Limited. 2025 roll year based on a reference date of April 1st, 2023 has an assessed value of $7,485,000. Okay, if you look at page 1, below on page 1 I brief, the prop description. So you'll see there are 3 buildings on the roll, 4 premises, it's a 1-story building. The actual year built range from 2012 to 2019, which is the same as the effective year builds. And we have an overall effective year built of 2013. The wall heights range from 9 to 10 feet. The construction class is steel and metal frame and walls. It is zoned for C3 commercial corridor. We have a total land area of 191,657 square feet with a plan area of 108,350 square feet. This gives us a land to plan area of 1.77. And we have a total leasable area of 94,106 square feet. Okay, if we turn to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the request for information has been received. There are no recent sales in place, and there are no subject leases in place, or no recent sales and subject leases. Okay, so if we turn to page 3 of my brief, you can see where this property is located. This property is actually located very close to the previous property we just spoke to. So it's on Creek Bend Road, which we know that is eventually comes into Ames Road, obviously. So it's actually very close to the previous property. So it's close to the south perimeter, just adjacent to St. Anne's Road. If we turn to page 4 of my brief, you'll see the pictures of the subject property here, obviously highlighted there. So you can see there's the road, and the access off of St. Anne's Road. If we turn to page 5 of my brief, we'll just see the parcel outline of the subject. So you can see there the parcel outline. Okay. Turning to page 6, we'll just see another photo of the subject from the aerial view. And at the bottom of page 6, we can get a better idea of what we're dealing with here. So, so obviously, maybe the board can see now that this is a self-storage unit property being used for self-storage. So again, you can just see the 3 buildings on the roll here on the page 6. So I'll show another page for this property on page 7, just some further photos of the buildings. This continues on page 8. You can see some further photos from a different angle. Page 8, I've just shown a photo of the first property, the largest one at the top. This continues on page 9, which is the second building, and then at the bottom of page 9, this is the third building. So you can just see them in their entirety. Okay, so we're turning to page 10 of my brief. These are some street view photos. So you can see here, this is the front of the property, just facing the front of the office, where the office area is. And then as you see the pictures go down, it just goes further down, showing the different buildings. And this is continued on page 11, again, just showing more of the buildings. So again, it's, as you can see, it's a self-storage unit. So so these are the buildings for the property we're dealing with here today. Okay, so if we turn to page 12 of my brief, you'll see the income workup. So see here we have a number of premises. So we have the 4 premises here. So the first one here at 34,520 square feet. This would be the first building I spoke to, the largest one. So we're applying a model rent of $6.48 a square foot. One thing I'll note is this particular space we have is in the system is heated space or heated storage. And now the second premise here at 32,586 square feet, you can see here we've used a different code to classify it. This is to adjust the rent. As you can see here, we have 32,586 square feet. And we're using a model rent of $275. That is due to the fact that this space is unheated space. So we're mindful of the fact that it is unheated. So obviously wouldn't be as desirable as a heated space, henceforth the lower rate. The third one here at 1,050 square feet, $11.17. This is the office space, obviously very small, as you can see in the photo we saw previously. And then lastly, the final premise, 25,950 square feet. This is the third building, the smallest of the 3. And we're using a model rent of $4.76 a square foot. So the reason the slightly higher but slightly lower than the first probably is due to the fact of we do have it as being 40% heated and 60% unheated. So we have a combination of heated and unheated, henceforth why we've applied that rent. So we have a total potential rent of $448,553, and we're using an overall blended rent of $4.77 a square foot. So that's the total blended rent for all 3 units or buildings. So, okay, as I indicated, we're using a total lease layer of 94,106 square feet. At 440,553 for potential rent. We're allowing 1.5% for vacancy, which then gives us an effective gross income of $441,825. Allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses, as well as $4 a square foot shortfall, which then gives us a net operating income of $422,924. And then lastly, we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 5.65%, which then gives us the estimated value of $7,485,000. Okay, so turn to page 13 of my brief. So these are some of my rent comparables here. So you can see some locations here. You may have seen some of these previously. So we have Niagara Road, King Edward, Sherwin, Deschambault, Day Street, and Debates. So these are some of the rent comparables here. So the lease start dates range from March 2019 to January 2022. Lease terms range from 3 to 10 years. Leasehold areas range from 15,000 square feet to 31,987 square feet. Wall heights range from 10 feet to 27 feet. The effective year of builds range from 1958 to 1982, and the rents in place range from $8.05 to $10.70 a square foot. One thing I will just note is, like, obviously the rent we've applied is quite a bit lower than the comparables. Obviously these are self-storage units. They don't rent out the same way as like a storage warehouse would or flex warehouse type property. They don't, they obviously they do rent, but obviously in a different sense. So I'm mindful of the fact that these comparables are higher, obviously, and they aren't self-storage, but they don't rent out like that. So it's hard to find rent comparables to those types of properties. So, okay, so page 14 of my brief, just some capitalization rate information. So under the industrial section, we've applied a 5.65 cap rate, so it falls within the 20th to 8th percentile subject, or for city of Winnipeg cap rates we apply. Looking at some of the outside sources, there would be some support. It does fall outside the range of some of the other comparables or other outside sources. But the fact of the building, I believe the fact of the location, the age, those would be some of the factors that would derive the cap rate, as I indicated in previous presentations. Page 15 of my brief, this is just the Municipal Assessment Act excerpt information. So page 16, 17, this is just the mailer that the owner has provided. Like I said, I won't really go into much depth. So we kind of spoke about this, but they are compliant with the mailer. This continued on page 18 and 19. Pages 20 and 21, this is a further mailer. This continues on page 23. Page 24 to 25 through 27 is just another mailer from 2020. So obviously they have been in compliance, just to show that. Page 28 of my brief, this is just a permit that was taken out when the last building, the smallest of the buildings, was complete. So this was taken out in 2019. So this was the building when it was developed or when it was built on the site. Page 29 of my brief is just a site plan. So you can just see the 3 buildings. Again, as we've seen in other photos, just the 3 buildings here, the site plan. Page 30 of my brief is just a picture of the main floor plan. The most recent building. Okay, page 31 of my brief. This is just a breakdown of the building sections, just to show the different buildings and the total gross area, obviously. So, and just to show the different ages when they were built and the different wall heights. Okay, so pages 32, this is just some information from the self-storage website, just to show what the rents of the units are renting out for. So I'm not going to go into all those depths, but this continues through page 36. And then page 37, this is just also from the website of the site, just talking about how they have some information about the self-storage units. Page 38, this is just a picture from their website, just showing the office space. And then this was some further photos they had on their website from page 39 of just the units. Okay, so I have some further information here. I'm not going to go through this there's a lot of information. I don't want to go through this to kind of speed things up. So there's just some outside source information here, going from starting on page 40. That just talks about self-storage and just goes through more information about it, and just some further information that I believe would support our value. So I'm not going to really go through all that information. So that being said, I believe that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. Mr. Neufeld, questions?
Yes, so just a few. Thank you for that, by the way. Just going through this, I'm trying to stay in order here. So your page 1, wall height 9 to 10 feet, and that of course is an external measurement.
That would be external, correct?
Yeah. Interior clear height, any idea?
I don't have an exact idea, but obviously they would definitely be less.
Yeah, okay, less than that, okay. And the construction here is you've got metal frame and walls. What about the framing? Metal frame, what sort of metal frame is this? Is that load bearing?
You know what, I don't have the exact dimensions of that, so.
Okay, it's metal though, right? Okay.
It is, yeah. Pretty awesome.
And on page sorry, just moving to the valuation page. Okay, that would be page 12. So this was all done by the model.
This is model drive, correct?
And when this assessment was created, it was called a storage warehouse.
That is the classification, if you will, yes.
Yes, and in order to deal with the uniqueness of self-storage, is there somewhere in this model where you tell the model it's self-storage?
Well, like I said, we've acknowledged like some of the space that's unheated, so which would adjust the rent, obviously, to
on the heating quality. I'm just wondering. So this, I'm guessing. I'm wondering if the model just values it on the basis of what we see, which is an area, and called a storage warehouse.
You know what? I'm not really going into the depth of the model here. So
okay, no, if you don't know, it's fine. It's a mystery to all of us. In the modeling, in the input for this, is the ceiling height part of the factor that's input?
That would take into, I think that would take more into factors of cap rate and things of that nature potentially. So
okay, and the land to plan area, this is a fair bit lower than most industrial, is it not?
Oh yeah, no, they've obviously developed so they can use the lot for all the different buildings or the storage. Yeah, but yeah, it's a bit lower, yeah, but I'm mindful of that. So
if it were operating as a storage warehouse, would you disagree if I said there's absolutely nowhere to turn a semi-trailer around on this site?
I don't disagree, but I don't see why you would need a semi-trailer in there. So
well, if it were a warehouse, you would bring in.
Oh yes, in a warehouse case, yes, but obviously.
Okay. And the breakdown here, just I'm looking. Sorry, I'm back on page 12. The first premise ID is heated space at 648, and then unheated at 275. The office 1117, and what's the last one?
As I indicated, we actually have it as 40% heated and 60% unheated.
Oh, okay, so half and half, sort of.
Yeah, a little bit more than half of it's unheated. Yeah.
Okay. And vacancy loss to 1.5%. I'm just looking at your parameters from published. Is this, can I assume that it's market region 2 vacancy rate
Are you looking
for
at,
industrial?
are you looking at the vacant jobs report, I guess is what you're
No,
looking
no,
at?
I'm looking at your valuation of
Oh.
income producing
Oh,
properties.
that probably, yes, that would be more in that, yeah, region, if you will, yeah.
And market region 2 includes all the way north through Transcona and East Kildonan, correct?
That would be the how we have it, yeah.
Okay. You don't have a specific vacancy rate for self-storage?
I don't have a breakdown of like an actual, like a mark report for specifically self-storage you're speaking to, I guess, or I don't have anything like that in my brief now, so.
And capitalization rate, does it ever account for quality of construction and remaining economic life?
You know what, I guess I don't have that information, so, you know.
No, okay. But it's applying a standard as if it were a standard warehouse. Is that how we read this?
Well, we've classified as a storage warehouse, I'm mindful of that, so, but,
Okay.
you know, we've taken some accounts to adjust the rent based on the, you know, conditions or the space or whatever, so.
Page 13 are the comparables to support this valuation. I take it these are all heated,
These would be heated to the best of my knowledge, yes.
and you have no unheated rents to show the board.
Typically, you don't see too much unheated space being rented out, so yeah, so it's challenging to find them, so.
The wall heights listed here, you are generally higher with the exception of Deschambault. Do you have anything in the others in the area of 8-foot clear height?
In terms of my comparables, no, obviously no.
And I've been in 40 Deschambault. Isn't it a variable height? It's got different sections in it.
450, yes, there is some wall height differentiation between the units from my understanding, so.
Yeah, okay. So the 10 is the minimum height, and it does change. It's okay. I think that's it. I'm just want to double check one thing, and 450 Deschambault. Okay. I think that's it. Just one second. I want no, those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Merritt, any questions?
At this point, I have no questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purvis. Questions?
I just want to confirm the comps that are on page 13, none of those are self-storage.
Yeah, correct. As I indicated, like self-storage typically doesn't rent out like this. So yes, it's hard to find. There's much of the, it's hard to find rent comparables, I guess, if you will, for self-storage. So yes, but yes, they're not self-storage units, no.
Okay, thanks. That was fun to get that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't have any questions in addition to that. Mr. Neufeld, your evidence, please.
Thank you. The valuation of self-storage sites for ad valorem tax purposes is confusing and difficult because the actual operation is part of a business enterprise, and for years we have been going back and forth with the assessment department to try to come up with a way of just recognizing it. And I think Mr. Harling's the workup he's presented is very close to what we had discussed, and with the exception of the factors I'm going to go over. On our page 1, we have assigned rents to the various sections, and I'm just trying to see if we lined up. That's why I was asking him the question about his sections on there. So 32,000 unheated, and we had 32,000 unheated. So we treated the 60,000 as completely heated. So we didn't break that down because it's in the same building. So we've used a value of $5 on the heated and 175 on the unheated. In a standard market, if this were just warehousing or industrial of any sort, this would be at the absolute bottom of the range. The reason is that there is no ceiling height and there's no floor loading, and of course no access for a semi-trailer. Since we're all talking about it, we're going to treat it as industrial, and all of our comps are based on that. Then how do you make the proper adjustment? And our decision on it was just go to lower range, end of the range on it for those differences. So this is a hypothetical valuation, as is the assessors. We're both making hypothetical decisions on this. So our NOI, our income is 368,000 on that basis, and comparing to their 448. Now, the biggest difference on it is the unheated space. We used $1.75, and this was actually a rent I only discovered the day that this was due as evidence. We found one on page 2 in the bold. 30,000 square feet of unheated space, June 1st, 2021, 5-year deal. Now it's a gross rent, and we have estimated at $175 a foot net. And it has a 40-foot ceiling height on Herbo. Now this is an older warehouse building, and it is in use. It is far superior to the subject in its industrial capability in that it has a great ceiling height. It's clear space. It doesn't have little dividers in it for spaces. And the floor loading is very, very good. And it at least is something. It gives you an idea of what unheated space goes for, and it's going to be in and around this area. Just because it's in a nice, it's divided into nice little units doesn't mean it's worth more. The concept of vacancy is something that in this business, even the information I objected to will tell you that you need a healthy vacancy on this. Now, again, another client of mine who I do his valuation work for all sorts of purposes, other reasons. I'm more in-house advisor, not tax agent for hire. You can see that he's got a vacancy problem, a severe problem, and this is just has to do with the operation. So he's reporting on his page 20 that he has a 3% vacancy rate. That's bad, because you need to have adequate space. Otherwise, your business doesn't operate. So this is a business issue. He is in the process of trying to get some land across the highway to expand his location in, because he needs to have a healthy vacancy rate of about 10%, 10 to 15%. If you don't, then the business model isn't as good. You always have to have space available. So believe it or not, a low vacancy rate's bad in this business. We've applied a 5% just in the nature of coming up with a model on that works. Cap rate, difficult issue as well, because the self-storage cap rates are based on income of the business, and they've been going up and down. Right now, the industry is in super high demand. COVID was really good for their business, believe it or not. One of the few industries that benefit from it. So the demand for their space zoomed up, as did the interest in investors to jump out of properties like office and into self-storage. There are a few self-storage REITs out there too that are driving up the numbers, the sale prices, and driving down their investment returns, because it was a good performer. We're just looking at a standard rate of Colliers is looking at a rate on page 29. If you call it industrial, the B's 6.5 to 7.5%, and we can make all sorts of adjustment for the flimsy building. It's a single wall steel, most of it. There's no load bearing capability. The steel framing is our aluminum 2x4 studs, and it's a kit. It's the lifespan on it is generally about 20 years. Of course, if you look after it, it can be extended. And so but all of these, we haven't factored most of these into this cap rate analysis here. We're just throwing it in there as if you're going to have a model, then we're going to just put it into the model range, the Collier's model at 7%. Nothing on our workup on page 1 on the second page 1 relates to reality of this. It was something that I've been working personally on since 2003, on coming to agreement with the assessment department on this form of valuation. And this is true to that with our past history. The only exception we made this year is I finally found a really big unheated rent that drives down the unheated values on I'll call it a parallel valuation. And so our value is $4,300,000 and as a real estate. And incidentally, one of the other ways of looking at sites like this would be to think about defaulting to land value at a certain point for many of these sites, because the improvements themselves, the kit ranges from $18 to $30 a square foot to build. The most expensive thing to build a self-storage is where you have unheated space and you have to use a pressurized sprinkler system, because that's expensive. Other than that, these things are cheap buildings. So at one point, you have to be thinking about land value. This one, of course, being on the perimeter highway, not a great deal of interest for housing. There is housing immediately north of it, but our value comes out to $1 million an acre as a default, which I think is a really good double check to the system. The self-storage sites can go anywhere. Cheap land, the better. For what they use, and that's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Any questions, Mr. Harling?
Yes, I do have a few questions. It's like first question I wanted to ask you about was this lease you talked about, this unheated space. So you say Hervo. So is this 555 Hervo you're speaking about?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So you said, and you also said it was a gross lease, I guess. Is that what you said?
The documentation indicated a gross number, yes.
And what's the tenant that's in there? Because I'm trying to find this because they provide us the mailer and I can't find this. So do you have that?
Is that a current mailer?
It's the most recent one, yeah.
Okay, and I just have to double check this. Is it been entered into evidence at any point for a hearing? Do you have permission to disclose it?
I can't put in there. I'm just speaking to this verbally, which I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I mean, I'm bound by the same issue. It's just like, privacy issue. If they haven't brought it forward, I'm able to tell you the tenant outside the hearing gladly.
Okay. Then that's we can avoid that question then.
But there is a tenancy, yes.
Okay, and as you said too, I'm familiar with this property. So you said this is a quite a bit older building. Not nearly as nice. Would it be? It's a much older building. Condition wouldn't be as good as the subject. Would you not agree?
Well, it's older, but it's going to last a lot longer than the self-storage buildings. It's got a lot of life left in it because it's strong, sturdy construction built with good quality materials, with a super floor loading capability. As opposed to these self-storage, a good strong wind comes, they can blow down. It's survived what, 50, 60 years, 70 years, and it's going to survive another 70. These self-storages, like I said, a lifespan of around 20 years. You've seen them last, reasonably with good care. It could last 40, 50 years.
Okay.
We look at remaining economic life, not age, because everything's based on utility, right? And the ceiling height and the floor loading are far superior, and there'll always be a need for that.
Okay. And so is this a net rent then? Did you net this out, I guess, then, or
Yeah, I netted it out.
Okay, because I'm just can't seem to really Okay, maybe we'll have to discuss with you later on this because I.
Yeah, no,
it's listed.
it hasn't, because it hasn't gone public. We were reluctant to disclose too much, but since you have it, I can gladly discuss it with you off the record.
Okay. So I guess my other question is, so like, I mean, I think we've obviously made the statement that these are challenging to evaluate, I guess, or value. So, and you kind of talked about the cap rate you've applied at 7%. So, can you maybe give me a bit more breakdown how you came up with it, other than like, I mean, what would you? I mean, obviously, like I said, in terms of trying to find maybe market support, like we know these don't sell in the open market, so you can't really,
Well, they do, but they're going to sell based on their business income.
Well, yes, exactly. So then we can't really. So
it's this is hypothetical, and we'll call it a compromise value. The closest we can say, I can tell you our discussion on it when we reviewed it. We looked at the Collier's cap rates and said, what's a reasonable number we can put forward on this? And based on, assuming it has an industrial usage and like the demand is high for this product on their business, which is good, but the building quality is low, which means a shorter remaining economic life and therefore a lower period to amortize the cap on. And we just, okay, you want to know how it happens? Well, let's just go in the middle.
Okay, so but I guess like you said, you've acknowledged the whole self-storage units as a whole have been very, they've been very booming. There's a lot of them being developed. There's a lot of them that have been profitable.
Yeah, it's a COVID beginning just excited this whole market. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess it's one of those few almost industries that, like, I'm not saying it's 100%, but you could almost argue it's kind of recession proof in a sense, right? People always need to store stuff, right? So.
Well, no, but the other factor on it was the housing shortages. So with a housing shortage, you've got less space. More people crammed into more houses, we'll say, for sake of simplicity, and storage spaces at a premium, and the self-storage industry picks up the slack. So if the market for housing was less aggressive and there was lower demand, then the use of the self-storage would drop.
Okay, then I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you for the questions. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harley. Mr. Purvis, any questions?
I don't think I have any questions.
Mr. Merrick?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I don't think I have any questions. Any need for a summary, Mr. Harley?
I think I've, I'll let the board rely on the evidence. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Any summary?
Well, there was one thing I had forgot to mention. The zoning on this is C3, so they cannot do outside storage, which is a very profitable enterprise because you don't have to spend any money. You just charge for parking, and that would be a downward influence on value. That's it.
Thank you. Then, having heard the evidence, we will conclude this matter and move to the last. Does anyone need a break before we go to the last matter on the docket?
2 minutes, if you could.
Okay, then let's come back at 11:50. I have 11:46 now, so 4 minutes. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order and turn to number 8 on the docket, please. That's the street address of 845 Lagimodiere. If you could please introduce the property, Mr. Harling, and provide the evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 24-3678. The roll number is 0605022000. The address is 845 Lagimodiere Boulevard, and the owner is Fieldstone Estates Limited. 2025 roll year based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 has an assessed value of $8,138,000. If you look under page 1 of my brief, under the prop description below, you can see here this is there are 2 buildings on the roll. So there are one-story buildings. The actual and effective year builds range from 1975 to 1977, with an overall effective year built of 1976. Construction classes, masonry bearing walls. The property is zoned for M3 manufacturing heavy. We have a total land area of 210,451 square feet, with a plan area of 84,450 square feet, and a land to plan area of 2.489. And lastly, we have total leasable area of 88,743 square feet. Okay, if we turn to page 2 of my brief, we'll see the request for income information have been received. There are no recent sales on the property, and we do not have any leases on our system in file. Okay, if we turn to page 3 of my brief, where the subject located. So this is again located just off of Lajimodi Boulevard. So you can kind of see here where the subject located with the little red dot here. So just north of it would be Dougal Road, Marion Street. So you just get an idea where it's situated. Okay, if we turn to page 4 of my brief, you can see where the subject is, just again where the buildings are, just again on page 4 in the aerial view here. Turning to page 5 to just get a better view, a closer view of the subject. So you can see the 2 buildings here, just off of Lajimodi. Page 6 is the parcel outline, zoomed out. And then on page 7, is just a further photo of the 2 buildings, just zoomed in. Okay, so page 8 is just some further photos. You can just see the 2 buildings, how they are situated. So these are multi-tenanted type of flex warehouse types buildings. So you can see there's the buildings themselves. Look on page 9, you can just see here some further photos from the property facing Lajimodi Boulevard. Page 10 is just some further photos just from the back, and then the page 10 at the bottom is just further photos zoomed in on one of the buildings. This is continuing on page 11, just some further photos of the buildings you can see here. And on page 12 at the top here is just the rear of one of the buildings. Page 12 at the bottom here, this is just a street view, a photo of the building, of one of the buildings. This continues on page 13, so you can just kind of see again some further photos. As you can see, it's as I indicated, a multi-tenant building or buildings. And lastly, on page 14, there's just some further photos from the street view photo. As you can see, the multiple tenants in the building. Okay, so if we turn to page 15 of my brief, this is the income workup. So as indicated, we classify this as a flex warehouse. As you can see here, we have a total of 18 premises on file. These leasable areas range from 1,223 square feet to 16,701 square feet, which gives us a total leasable area of 88,743 square feet. And you can see the model rents in place range from $6.04 a square foot up to $7.26 a square foot. And we have a total potential rent of $576,255. And we are using an overall blended rent of $6.49 a square foot. Okay, so if we look at the income valuation below, we can see again, the potential rent is $576,255. We're allowing 1.5% for vacancy, which then gives us an effective gross income of $567,611. Allowing 3% for non-controllable expenses is $4 a square foot of shortfall, which then gives us a net operating income of $545,258. And then lastly, we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 6.70%, which gives us the estimated value of $8,138,000. Okay, so if we turn to page 16 and 17 of my brief, these are a number of rent comparables. I'm not going to go through each individual one, but these will all be in similar types of properties, flex warehouse buildings. Some are close to the subject property. So the board can kind of look at those if they would like. The lease terms range from, the lease terms start dates range from November 2020 to December 2022. Lease starts range from 1 to 5 years. Leasable areas range from 1,255 square feet to 17,702 square feet. Wall heights range from 8 to 24 feet. Effective rear belts range from 1965 to 1995. And the rents in place range from $6 to $10.69 a square foot. So, looking at the number of premises we have, the model rates we've applied, I believe those would be supported by the outside, by the comparables. So I believe our model rate would be supported. Okay, if we turn to page 18 of my brief, looking under the industrial cap rate section for the city of Winnipeg, 6.70% cap rate we've applied would fall within the range of cap rates. And I believe, and looking at the outside sources, that would be further supported by the outside sources as well at 6.7%. Turn to page 19 of my brief, just some excerpt information. Okay, so page 20 of my brief, this is just the income expense mailer for the property, or the income statement. So this is on page 20 and 21. If we go to page 22, these are the leases in place that they have on file. So you can kind of, I'm not going to go through all these, but you can see some of the lease start dates when they started and how long they've been in, and the leases have been in place for. And you can see all the rents and the areas of the leases. This continues on page 24. And then lastly, on page 25, you can just see here, this is just the showing the total leaseable area, and they're fully tenanted. Now, if you turn to page 26 of my brief, you can just see the building sections we have on files. You can just see the total leasable area, or the total area of the buildings. As we have the two buildings and the area and the wall heights, just to give the breakdown. And then lastly, just on page 27, this is just an old site plan we had on file, just to show kind of just the buildings, some of the tents that were in the buildings. There's some, I believe, some differences since then, but this is just what we had on file. So just to show that, again, there's multi-tenanted buildings. So, okay, so that being said, that concludes the presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, questions? And you're muted, Mr. Neufeld.
I'm just looking for my tab. Okay. I'm just looking for the model page.
15.
Page 15. So this is all done by the model. Just anything changed on it?
No, it's all model derived.
Okay. And this vacancy of 1.5%, again, that's for your District 2?
This would be in the market region 2, correct?
Market region 2. Anything more specific to this particular region?
Looking at, I think there was some outside, so I don't have any vacancy reports in my brief, but we look at market vacancies, and we did see vacancies lower in this area. So
yeah, but being so broad, very geographically broad, I'm just wondering if you zeroed in on St. Boniface in M3 zoned area.
It's not terribly far from like the St. Boniface Industrial Park area, so, and Dugald, obviously. So,
well, but this is in the St. Boniface, like it's the land, say Lajemodier to Archibald, which is generally all M3 zoned, right? Like the subject.
There's a combination of so zoning in M3s, M2s,
and I'm just wondering if you don't have anything more specific to the actual region.
I don't have anything at this time, so.
Okay. And other than the assessment department, any other outside sources? Like, did you look at the Johnson report, for example, for St. Boniface?
I don't have that in my brief, no. So.
Okay. No, that's and capitalization rate. This is based as a flex warehouse. The age is 1975 with a ceiling height, exterior height of 20 feet. Wouldn't this is flex warehouse wouldn't be appropriate to this, or I don't think it is, but I'm trying to put it in a question. Do you think flex warehouse, this belongs in flex warehouse?
You know what? I don't think it's seeing issues with it. I mean, it is a combination of, there is some office space or some, they do have storage in the back, and then they have some kind of like, maybe retail space in the front. So I don't think it would be that inappropriate.
Well, was it designed with particular bay widths in mind?
In terms of like loading bays?
Well, no, like a flex warehouse will have a standardized a bay system so that they can move them around and redo the areas, and they'll usually base it on usually around a 30-foot width. Was this designed that way?
Obviously, being a bit older when it was built, I guess that wasn't how their initial design was. Now, from my understanding.
But the premise IDs, and I'm looking back on the page 15, they appear to be fairly irregular, don't they?
In terms of the shapes of the buildings?
The areas, leasable area.
Oh yeah, they range. Yeah, there are some that are smaller and larger. Yeah, so.
No common denominator of 3,000 feet or 6,000 feet here, then, is there?
In terms of areas, like
no, I'm just asking. I don't want to get too far off here, but like a flex warehouse will be a 3,000 or a 6,000 foot bay, but none of these are bay sizes of those dimensions, are they?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And with a 20-foot exterior height, would you estimate the interiors to be roughly around 17 to 20 feet?
I think that'd be a fair estimate. Like I said, yeah, they definitely be smaller, yeah, or the interior height would be less, yeah.
So can you put a second floor in any of these? A legal second floor?
I mean, there could be some potential mezz space maybe, but
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Okay, but not a full legal floor that was 8 foot clear or anything of the sort. I'm just looking. I don't know if. Sorry, give me one sec. You're about 4,000 square feet over plan area, so some of these could be mezzanines that are included.
yes, that would probably be a good speculation, yeah.
Okay.
I don't-
Sorry, I really don't have a lot of questions. I'm just want to make sure I covered all the grounds here. And the cap rate, again, this is from the city's modeling. You've listed page 18, industrial. You don't follow the categories of the service, the industry. This is just what the model demonstrated.
Yeah, we don't.
Somewhere.
Yeah, we're not classifying as like an A or B or anything like that. So yeah.
No classification. Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, that's it. That's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you. Mr. Purvis, questions?
I, sorry, I don't have any questions.
Mr. Merritt, questions?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harling, my question relates to the income and expense mailer that was received. Did you compare the income and expense mailer with the modeled or the amounts that the model contributed to the calculation or to the valuation?
You know, I briefly looked at the actual income they're generating. Yeah, so I did briefly look at it. Obviously, you know, there's going to be some variations, but yeah, I did take a look into it. Yes, so.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Neufeld, your evidence, please.
Thank you. So just a couple of differences to point out, which would be income, vacancy rate, and the capitalization rate. These are the major points of contention, and they're all of medium strength. The calculation of the income, and I was just reviewing this now, is 533,000 for potential, and this relates to, now if you look on the statement page, I'm not sure if we gave you a statement or not. Let me see. Yes, we do. So it on our page 4, you can see that their number is actually 500 and about 561,000, because the free rent is, this is a book number, so 561 as full. And this is there's a couple of units that are not fully paying their recoveries, because when you calculate the recovery income on this, it's about 280,000, and the expenses as you go further down, I went through this while I was reading this, are at about 310,000 of the normal expenses. And no, I'm not including interest. No, I'm not including cash to owner or anything of the sort. It's just normal operating. So there's a shortfall there, and that is about $20,000. So that gets us to the number we have. And as well, there's some prior period adjustments in here. One of the recoveries listed here is a prior period CAM recovery, so that doesn't belong in the statement. So that would be adjusted out as well. So my reading of it is that the 533 looks pretty good as a potential. Vacancy, we use 6%, and I've got the Johnson report in front of me. So multi-tenant Investment industrial rates, St. Boniface, 6.3%. We used 6%, and that's because we were just looking at the rest of the city as well, just to even it out, because the other parts of the city performed a bit better than this. So there is a cap rate, sorry, a vacancy rate for this type of property in Johnson. Unlike the city where we don't, they've got a bunch of different uses and a lot of different market sectors in there. We're focused on St. Boniface. And this, I believe, would cover the, let me just see if they have a separate one for Transcona. Yes, separate for Elmwood, separate for East Kildonan. So I believe this would encompass St. Boniface Industrial Park, as well as the older St. Boniface region. And lastly, the capitalization rate. This is more of a typical property that would be of greater interest to an investor than the other properties we've heard today. And this one I actually agree with at 7%. And this falls squarely between our Collier's Class B in the middle of the rates as a 7% return, not too far off what the assessor has. And the difference is the basic difference with this property to a better property is the utility. And looking at the pictures, you can see where we're lacking on it. God, Mr. Harlan's pictures are so much better than mine. I'm looking at his page 9, and you can see what the big problem is: the semi-trailer room. So a car is about 20 feet in length. A semi-trailer needs 125 feet to turn. There's actually one right in front on the highway, and you can see that will not fit on the site. So that's a negative on the potential for it. The other negative is that it's not flex space. A flex space is usually you're going to have 27 feet clear, about 32 on the outside. So you can, and it'll be in 3,000 or 6,000 foot bays, and that's the space between the posts, so that you can easily demise a property on the post, and then you can move your units with it, your HVAC units with it, not reposition. That's the way they're all designed. This one lacks the height, and you can see from the rent roll that the numbers are all over the board. So it was demise as you go, so the lack of flexibility, but it is fulfilling a certain demand with the tenant who needs a bit of office and a bit of storage, and so it's still a good investment. It's just not top investment, and we think 7%. And I just noticed another very good picture for comparison. Assessor's page 6. There's a site kitty corner to the subject where there are it looks like parked semis, just the trailers. So add the tractor to that length, and they don't fit on the subject, and that's these are all some smaller issues, but in totality, they come to a larger difference in value, $6,103,000. And again, although I know you're not going to listen or care about this, but the last year's number was arrived at by, I believe it was by agreement, and on valuation, and I can't see how the increase would be so great and significant. Industrial did improve in the last couple of years, and this is about for average good warehousing industrial. I think we hit it really well on this. You got about a 20% increase in value. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Harlan, questions?
Just a couple of quick questions. I'll just note that, that I think it was a decision for that one for 2020.
It was a decision? Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. So the question I just had first was, so I know your rental income, or your net income, you start off with 533,000, and I know you were looking at the actual mailer or the expenses form. So how did you come up with that number? Because I took, if you take the office rent and then, deduct the free rent.
Right.
So what was the difference, I guess?
Well, okay, so I'd have to have my calculator in front of me, but here, so we started, and I'm looking at page 4.
Or yeah.
So, yeah, so I'm just going to use round numbers. 575 less the 14.6 gets us to 561, and then if you look at the recoveries, this is 281,000 in recoveries. That's the common area and the tax. And then I went through the operating costs. So 281 recovered, and then if you look, so 281, and then you subtract actual total operating costs read under the word security, which is 142, and then you subtract taxes, 139, and then you subtract insurance, 15, and management fees, 45. So that's a shortfall of $60,000 on recoveries versus actual cost on just those items. So then going back to page, the first part of the page where we had 561, we have a shortfall. Obviously, we're dealing with some semi-gross leases. That would then actually relate to 501,000 for potential. And I guess the person who did this just made an arbitrary decision to cut that in half and go with 533. So I'm not going to dispute it, but that's the simple math on that.
Okay, so I guess so. So then I guess you've already so in that calculation, all the shortfall and everything's already been included in the net rate.
No, and that's the other reasoning for cutting it in half, because then there's shortfalls below. Like, first of all, vacancy and shortfall are not considered, are over and above this because the place was obviously full, so you have to add in. But if you look at the non-recoverables and the structural, that's 46,000. So we've claimed below. So not to double dip. That's why instead of going to 501, I went to 533, and then we dealt with those below. And that was the comment about cutting it in half and going to 533 instead of 501, because there's an area for it.
Okay, I think I followed that. So yeah, okay, I'll leave it at that. And my second question is, so yeah, I know you're talking about the vacancy report here. I don't see any. Is this like? Just curious. I couldn't find that vacancy in your brief here. Was that speaking to the vacancy in here?
Oh, yeah, no, you're correct. I don't know why this office stuff is in here. So it's laziness, obviously. I have the Johnson report in front of me from the year. So what I was doing in it is just checking the reasonableness of the calculation, and rather than as a source. And I find it reasonable given what I'm looking at, a 6.3, a multi-tenant investment industrial in St. Boniface.
Okay, you know what? That's all the questions I have then. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt, have you any questions?
I have none, thank you.
Mr. Purvis?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
And I don't have any questions. Mr. Harling, summary?
No, I think I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Neufeld, any summary?
Yes, I think that the actual income is very, very supportive of our NOI through all of this, and then we have a small difference in the cap rate. And I think it's 7% is the normal you should be looking at for decent properties in the city of Winnipeg. And I wanted to say something else, and I know the hearing is closed on another matter. This is only for me. But I did check into the 50 Omen situation, and it sold. And you don't have to use this as evidence. Just I didn't want to make sure that I was truthful. I found the sale date. It was actually in 2020, and I don't know why it didn't get registered on titles, or the assessor didn't find it. April 3rd, 2020, and it was for $4,050,4050, and then those sheds were put on after the fact. And again, I know you can't listen to it, but for me, I want to make sure I got it right.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Matthew. I enjoy work. I love your workups. Good pictures, good details, good job. We
Thank
just
you.
disagree in value occasionally.
Oh, fair enough, I get it.
Okay, well, having heard the evidence, we will conclude this matter, and I believe that concludes all of the matters on the docket. Thank you very much, Mr. Harley and Mr. Neufeld, for your presentations today, and we will close this hearing.
Sure.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Right.